Chapter 351. Medium-grade spirit martial art, Gale Spear Art. Cho Bo-hong's Gale Spear Art had already reached perfection. This was a spirit martial art that emphasized speed. Moreover, Cho Bo-hong's comprehension of the potential of the wind was extremely profound. This increased the speed of the Gale Spear Art. With a thrust of his spear, the distance of 1,000 meters was like a ruler. Although Cho Bo-hong was confident in himself and looked down on Yixing in terms of strength, because Yun Zhanfei had died under Yixing's hands, Cho Bo-hong didn't relax his tactics. Instead, he remained vigilant, attaching great importance to this battle. In this spear strike, Cho Bo-hong had used at least 80% of his strength. Let alone a half-step true master, even a one-star true master would be frightened out of their wits by this spear strike. But Yixing was not an ordinary half-step true master, nor was he someone a one-star true master could compare with. In particular, speed. In this aspect, any early true master could forget about gaining an advantage in front of Yixing. Dark Spirit Spear Art. The black dragon spear in Yixing's hands moved. In an instant, a dark spear light shot out. He used the Dark Spirit Spear Art and thrust out his spear. Cho Bo-hong's spear was fast, but Yixing's spear was even faster. The two spirit spears were like two needles against each other, their spear points thrusting together. Bang! A terrifying astral collision emitted explosive sounds. In that instant, a mass of energy rapidly spread out in all directions. Yixing and Cho Bo-hong's bodies shook at the same time. They were sent flying back 100 meters by the impact of this energy before falling to the ground. Wang! The medium-grade spirit spear in Cho Bo-hong's hands buzzed and trembled. As for the black dragon spear in Yixing's hands, it remained motionless, completely silent. One was a medium-grade spirit spear and the other was a high-grade spirit spear. In a collision of equal strength, it was clear which was stronger and which was weaker. The black dragon spear had dissolved the impact of the collision. Yixing's arm hadn't been impacted by the other's strength. But Cho Bo-hong's arm had been impacted by Yixing's spear, causing his arm to feel numb from the shock. Cho Bo-hong stared at Yixing. His eyes were filled with shock as he exclaimed, he said, "Half-step true master? This was impossible. You just broke through to 8-star martial sage 10 days ago. In just 10 days, how could you break through again and become a half-step martial sage?" Yixing's eyes were filled with intense killing intent as he said, "Impossible? Whether you believe it or not, the truth is the truth, just like your life. Even if you don't want to believe it, you can't change the fact that you will die today." Cho Bo-hong's eyes burned with anger as he shouted, "Hiding your cultivation, you must have hidden your cultivation before. No wonder you were able to kill Yun Zhanfei. It turns out that you are a half-step enlightened being, and your strength is not any weaker than a one-star enlightened being. However, in front of me, Cho Bo-hong, your strength is not enough." Instantly, Cho Bo-hong's aura surged. He circulated his astral energy to the limit, wanting to go all out against Yixing. Before this, Cho Bo-hong thought that 80% of his strength would be enough to kill Yixing. However, through the exchange just now, he had already tested out Yixing's strength. If he didn't go all out, there was no hope of killing Yixing. Facing Cho Bo-hong's surging aura, Yixing's expression was indifferent as he said, "A 2-star enlightened being is only so-so. You are much weaker than I thought. Did you think that I went all out just now? I only used 60% of my strength to play with you." Yixing's aura also skyrocketed. The grand force of wind, the grand force of fire, and the grand force of darkness, the three grand forces of heaven and earth, caused Yixing's aura to be even stronger than Cho Bo-hong's. Cho Bo-hong's pupils shrank, revealing a trace of astonishment. A half-step enlightened being could actually release such a terrifying aura. This was simply more terrifying than most of the 2-star enlightened beings he had met. At this moment, cracks began to appear in Cho Bo-hong's confidence in winning. He regretted not notifying the other enlightened beings. If he were alone, it would be difficult for him to swallow up all the treasures on Yixing's body. Now, Cho Bohong wanted to notify the others, but Yixing wouldn't give him the time. He shouted, "You also want to try my spear?" Dark Spirit Spear Art, Flash of Light. This spear was the Manifestation Realm Dark Spirit Spear Art. It had reached perfection. With the minute wind force added on, its speed reached the extreme. With the minute fire force and darkness force added on, its might was terrifying to the extreme. With a whoosh, a light flashed and the black dragon spear arrived in front of Cho Bohong. Compared to Cho Bohong's Gale Spear Art, this spear was much faster and much stronger. As this spear arrived, Cho Bohong's heart tightened. A cold sweat dripped down his back as he felt a fatal threat. Cho Bohong's figure was like a bolt of lightning. He drew backwards, the medium-grade spirit spear in his hands thrusting forwards. Bang! Two spears collided. With a loud explosive sound, energy exploded outwards. Cho Bohong's body shook and his retreating speed doubled as he shot backwards for over 1,000 meters. As for Yixing, he only paused for a moment. He didn't take half a step back. He used the heavenly bat steps and his figure flashed like a bolt of lightning. The black dragon spear erupted with a brilliant dark spear light once more as it thrust towards Cho Bohong. Dark Spirit Spear. Yixing shouted out loud. He used the Dark Spirit Spear Art's ultimate killing move. The dark spear light shot forwards, occupying Cho Bohong's entire field of vision. The Manifestation Realm Dark Spirit Spear Art contained the rhythm of the Tao. Its moves were like divinity, possessing an unfathomable might. Even if it was a one-star enlightened being whose cultivation was higher than Yixing's, in front of Yixing's spear, they still wouldn't have the strength to resist. They would instantly die. Cho Bohong was a two-star enlightened being. Beneath this spear, he also felt an intense sense of death. However, the strength of a two-star enlightened being was far from what a one-star enlightened being could compare with. In front of this spear, a one-star enlightened being had no ability to resist. A two-star enlightened being. Cho Bohong bit down on the tip of his tongue. The pain caused him to instantly awaken from the illusion of divinity. However, the black dragon spear was already close to his throat. Cho Bohong didn't have time to use his spear skills to resist. He could only instinctively block with his spear. Clang! The black dragon spear's spear point ruthlessly struck the middle-grade spirit spear shaft, emitting a loud explosive sound. A terrifying strength instantly sent Cho Bohong flying backwards. Cho Bohong spat out a mouthful of blood as he shot backwards for over 1,000 meters. Whoosh! As Cho Bohong was still retreating, a beam of starlight shot out from between his eyebrows, turning into a star surrounded by a hurricane. This was a wind attribute astral image. Its star force surged, and from its intensity, it could be considered a high-grade astral image. Cho Bohong had used his astral image, but he didn't launch a counterattack against Yixing. Instead, he followed the strength of Yixing's spear and fled into the distance. Beneath the cover of the hurricane astral image's wind star force, Cho Bohong's speed doubled. Astral wind turned into wings and he rapidly glided through the air. His speed was at least twice as fast as when he rode the red-tailed eagle. At the same time, Cho Bohong took out the speed communication bead. Yixing's strength was far too formidable, causing him to be frightened out of his wits. As for Yixing's treasures, he no longer had the courage to take them all for himself. He had to notify the other enlightened beings so that they could besiege Yixing. How could Yixing give Cho Bohong the chance to notify the others? His lips curled up and a pair of blue wings instantly sprouted from his back. These weren't wings condensed from astral essence, but a true flight-type spirit artifact. Moreover, they were a top-grade flight-type spirit artifact, the Azure Cloud Wings. At this time, Yixing was striving to stop Cho Bohong as quickly as possible. Naturally, he had to erupt with his maximum speed. With a flap of the azure cloud wings, Yixing instantly turned into a beam of light, vanishing from where he stood. Qiu Buhong's speed was fast enough, nearly reaching the speed of a third-level monster bird. But, compared to Yixing's speed when he used the azure cloud wings, he was far too slow. He was at least twice as slow. In the blink of an eye, Yixing crossed several miles and appeared behind Qiu Buhong. The black dragon spear in his hands emitted an intense dark spear light that ruthlessly stabbed towards Qiu Buhong's back. Qiu Buhong grasped the medium-grade spirit spear in one hand and the speed communication bead in the other. He had already activated the azure cloud stars to activate the speed communication bead. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly felt a bone-chilling chill from behind him. His heart trembled as he felt the aura of death. At this time, Qiu Buhong didn't have time to speak. He quickly looked behind him and his hair stood on end. He saw that Yixing's black dragon spear had already pierced towards his back. Qiu Buhong's astral essence erupted to the limit. His body was covered in a layer of flames and his astral essence was already burning. His speed erupted as he wanted to avoid this spear. But even so, Qiu Buhong's speed was still inferior to Yixing's spear. In that instant, an icy chill penetrated his heart. Qiu Buhong didn't feel any pain. But as he looked down, he saw that the spear point had pierced through his chest. Chapter 352. As Qiu Buhong saw the spear point in his chest, he realized that he had been pierced through by this spear. Because this spear was too fast, even though it pierced through Qiu Buhong's body, he didn't feel any pain. It was only at this moment that he saw the spear point pierce through his chest, dripping with blood. Only then did he feel the intense pain that came from his body. Qiu Buhong opened his mouth wide and cried out in fear. But his throat wasn't able to emit any shrill sounds. All he could do was emit a hoarse roar. The black dragon spear had pierced through Qiu Buhong's heart. This was a fatal wound. Qiu Buhong's vitality rapidly faded away and he didn't even have the time to cry out. Blood gushed out from Qiu Buhong's mouth. In just several breaths of time, his head tilted to the side and he died. In the skies, Yixing's blue cloud wings spread open behind him. He calmly stood in the void, grasping the black dragon spear and thrusting forwards. The spear point pierced through Qiu Buhong's body, fixing his corpse in the air. Even as Qiu Buhong died, his eyes were filled with regret and unwillingness. When he fought Yixing, he didn't lower his guard because he underestimated Yixing. But it couldn't be denied that he had underestimated Yixing far too much. It was because he underestimated Yixing that he thought Yixing was only a genius of the younger generation, someone who hadn't stepped into the sage realm yet. It was impossible for him to be a match for a 2-star sage like him. Thus, when he saw Yixing, he didn't notify anyone. Instead, he wanted to kill Yixing and take all the treasures for himself. Ultimately, this had led to his own death. In truth, Yun Zhanfei dying under Yixing's hands was a very bad omen. This should have caused Qiu Buhong to place more importance on Yixing and avoid a one-on-one battle with Yixing as much as possible. Unfortunately, Qiu Buhong was attracted by the treasures and wanted to take all of Yixing's treasures for himself. Thus, he made an irrational move and naturally had to bear serious consequences. Yixing put away the black dragon spear and Qiu Buhong's corpse fell from the skies. The black dragon spear shook and a cold light flashed on the spear point, leaving not a single drop of blood on it. When Yixing landed on the ground, he retracted his azure cloud wings and collected Qiu Buhong's storage ring and mid-grade spirit spear. With a wave of his hand, he burned Qiu Buhong into ashes with the star fire. Qiu Buhong, you're not the first, and you won't be the last. East Fu's sect, Flying Clouds sect, Blood Spectre sect, Divine Wind sect, and Sun Moon sect. Just you wait. It won't be long before I uproot all of you. This is the price you have to pay for attacking my falling star sect. Seeing Cho Bohong turn into ashes, Yixing said coldly. In the distance, Cho Bohong's red-tailed eagle flapped its wings and flew away. Yixing took out the purple firmament bow and a purple gold arrow. With a single shot, the arrow cut through the void for several miles and instantly struck the red-tailed eagle's head, instantly killing it. Yixing waved his hand towards the distance. The third-level monster beast, the black-armored iron bull, quickly ran over to the red-tailed eagle's corpse and began to enjoy its meal. Yixing continued to practice his martial arts. The dark spirit spear art had already reached the manifestation boundary. What he needed to practice next was the heavenly bat steps and the 4 divisions arrow art. Wind potential had a great effect on the cultivation of the heavenly bat steps. In addition to the 4th level of heart force, it didn't take long for his attainments in the heavenly bat steps to reach the manifestation boundary. With the heavenly bat steps reaching transcendent perfection, Yixing was no longer constrained by the situation. Every step he took had a terrifying speed. Speed was his advantage to begin with, and now it had risen to another level. As for the 4 symbols arrow technique, because Yixing's heart force was closely related to the art of archery, it was a piece of cake for him to cultivate it. In less than 2 days, he had reached the transformative stage. When one's martial arts reached the manifestation boundary, they were no longer constrained by the moves. Each of their moves contained unpredictable power. Yixing's dark spirit spear art, heavenly bat steps, and 4 divisions arrow art had all reached the manifestation boundary. Compared to when he had just reached the half-step enlightened person, his strength was incomparable. After reaching the manifestation boundary of the 4 divisions arrow art, Yixing continued to practice the upper-tier spiritual martial art, Flame Dipper Fist. As an upper-tier spiritual martial art, the Flame Dipper Fist was much harder to practice than middle-tier spiritual martial arts such as the Dark Spirit Spear art. However, Yixing had the help of the super brain. His body had already formed the Star Dipper and he also had the 4th level of heart force. Thus, he was able to practice the Flame Dipper Fist very quickly. 3 days later, Yixing stopped practicing the Flame Dipper Fist. His attainment in the Flame Dipper Fist had far surpassed the small success stage. He was only 1 step away from the greater success stage. However, the greater success stage of the upper-tier spiritual martial art required too much of the Star Dipper. It was not that Yixing could not comprehend it, but his cultivation was too low. At the half-step enlightened person level, it was basically impossible for him to break through that last step. Thus, he could only give up for now. As long as Yixing's cultivation broke through to the Star Dipper realm, the greater success stage of the Flame Dipper Fist would follow naturally. Yixing sat on the ground and took out a big piece of frost python meat from his storage ring. He pierced it with a lower-tier spiritual sword. Then, he waved his hand and ignited the star fire on the ground. He placed the frost python meat on top of the star fire and started to roast it. In the past few days, Yixing had been practicing martial arts and eating the dry food he had brought with him. Today, after he had finished practicing all the martial arts, Yixing's appetite had been aroused. He was preparing to roast some frost python meat for a big meal to reward himself. Yixing's star fire was extremely tyrannical. The frost python meat could not come in contact with the star fire directly, or else it would be burned to ashes. It could only be roasted on top of the star fire and let the heat slowly roast it. Not long after, oil dripped from the frost python's meat, emitting an appetizing aroma. The frost python meat was a natural top-grade ingredient. It did not need any seasoning. When roasted, it was already an exceptional delicacy. Soon, the frost python meat was roasted until it was golden and shiny. The aroma assailed the nostrils. Yixing was already salivating when he smelled the aroma. Whoosh! Yixing waved his hand and put away the star fire. The frost python meat had been completely roasted. Looking at the roasted frost python meat, Yixing's eyes lit up. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and prepared to enjoy the delicious meal. Smells so good, good food. Yixing was about to eat when a voice suddenly came from behind him. It was mixed with the sound of someone sniffing. Yixing heard the voice and his hair stood on end. He turned his head and saw that a bearded man with long hair and a bare upper body had appeared behind him at some unknown time. This man looked like a barbarian. He had a strong body and was 2 meters tall. His 2 arms were like a normal person's thighs. His muscles bulged like dragons. His entire person was filled with a sense of wildness and power. Whoosh! Yixing instantly shot up. Like a flash of light, he rushed forward several hundred meters. This barbarian-like strong man had actually appeared behind Yixing without making a sound. This made Yixing's hair stand on end. The black armored iron bull didn't sound a warning. This meant that it didn't notice the barbarian's arrival. This barbaric man was able to evade the black armored iron bull's vigilance, and was even able to silently appear behind Yixing. If he didn't make a sound, Yixing wouldn't have been able to detect him. This caused Yixing to be extremely shocked and scared. What kind of cultivation did this barbaric man have? If this barbarian had wanted to harm him, he could have launched a sneak attack from behind and killed Yixing in an instant. Yixing turned around and looked at the barbarian from afar. He asked, "Who are you?" The barbarian cracked a smile. "Ha! You don't have to be afraid. I don't have any evil intentions. If I did, you would have been dead before you could even sense my presence." The barbarian spread his hands, indicating that he was talking about something big. Even so, Yixing was still scared. He used his super brain to scan the barbarian, but he couldn't detect his cultivation. The barbarian saw that Yixing was very vigilant. He said, "I was cultivating in seclusion in the dark canyon, comprehending the power of darkness. I smelled the fragrance of your barbecue. Ha! It's too fragrant. My favorite thing in this life is delicious food. Although I only smelled the fragrance, I can guarantee that the barbecue in your hand must be a peerless delicacy." After saying that, the barbarian realized that he hadn't answered Yixing's question. He said, "I'm He. He Biao. You can call me He Biao. I want to eat the peerless delicacy in your hand. Of course, I won't eat it for free. I'll use my collection of peerless wine to exchange with you. How about it?" He Biao raised his hand and a dark green bottle appeared in his hand. It was about 3 inches tall. Yixing looked at the dark green bottle and thought, how much wine can such a small bottle hold? He Biao saw Yixing's expression and said, "Don't look down on my wine bottle. Hee, even if it's a house full of wine, it can still hold it all. I'm about to leave the Qingyun region and expand the map to the entire True Xian domain. The 9 great sects and the sects in other regions have a lot of new settings and new characters. Then, I have to use the plot to connect these new settings, sects, and characters. It's very troublesome and I'm stuck in a very miserable situation. Moreover, some readers said that the plot isn't good recently. This made me even more flustered. I don't know what to write next. Sweat. Yesterday and today, I've been thinking hard about the plot for the next 2 days. Now, I've finally straightened it out a little. How is it going? When it's done, please verify it. I'll update 1 chapter today. I won't use the previous chapters to make up for the missing chapters. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Adding chapters is adding chapters. Making up for the missing chapters is making up for the missing chapters. Thank you, brothers, for your support. Your support is the motivation for me to work hard. Thank you. Chapter 353. Yixing was shocked. The green wine bottle in He Biao's hand was actually a spatial treasure. Storage rings were the most common type of spatial treasure. The only spatial treasure Yixing had ever seen was a storage ring. However, the storage ring space was not big. A low-grade storage ring space was only 1 meter in length, width, and height. It could not store many things. A mid-grade storage ring was 100 times more precious than a low-grade storage ring. Its space was also 100 times larger. It was about 5 meters in length, width, and height. It could store a large room's worth of things. He Biao said that the green wine bottle in his hand could store a room's worth of wine. A room must have more than one room. The space was probably bigger than a mid-grade storage ring. It was very extraordinary. Of course, Yixing's super brain could not detect He Biao's cultivation. This was enough to prove that he was not an ordinary person. It was normal for him to have extraordinary treasures on him. During the grand tournament of the 10 sects, Yixing was able to scan the cultivation base of the 4-5 celestial enlightened masters of the northern 4 sects. It was obvious that He Biao's cultivation base was higher than the northern 4 sect leaders. According to Yixing's inference, He Biao was at least a high-level enlightened master. He could be called an esteemed master. In the entire True Xian domain, an esteemed master stood at the pinnacle of the martial arts world. Of course, an esteemed master was Yixing's lowest estimation of He Biao. He Biao's cultivation should only be higher. He might even be a venerable. However, Yixing obviously did not believe that this savage He Biao in front of him was a venerable. Not to mention in the Qingyun region, even in the entire True Xian domain, venerables were legends. Yixing did not believe that he would meet a venerable in the Qingyun mountain range. He Biao did not have any malice towards Yixing. This made Yixing feel relieved. His expression changed from panic to calmness. Yixing tossed the roasted frost python meat over to He Biao and said, "There's no need for Senior to exchange wine for this frost python meat. If Senior insists on exchanging, then why don't you tell me where Dark Gorge is? I want to comprehend the force of darkness as well." Yixing heard an important point from He Biao's words. He Biao said that he comprehended the darkness force in the Dark Canyon. Yixing's grand force of wind and grand force of fire had long since stepped into the initial stage of force, the advanced stage. This was especially true for the grand momentum of wind, which was already quite a distance away from the realm of intricacy. Only Yixing's dark force was still at the first level of force, which was still a bit away from the subtle realm. If Yixing could comprehend the dark force to the minute's subtlety realm, then the dark spirit spear art, as a dark martial art, would definitely have a huge increase in power. Yixing's strength would also increase by another level. Yixing was not someone who liked wine. He naturally wanted to comprehend the power of darkness more than coveting the fine wine in He Biao's hands. He Biao took the frost python meat and put it in front of his nose to smell it, revealing a look of enjoyment. After sniffing a few times, He Biao revealed a very satisfied expression and said, "Good meat, ta. Exceptional meat." While talking, He Biao took out a dagger. With a swoosh, he cut the frost python meat into 2 halves. He Biao threw half of it to Yixing and said, "I'll bring you to the Dark Canyon. I'll also give you the fine wine to drink. One person happy is not as good as 2 people happy. Come, let's drink fine wine while eating good meat." Yixing took a step forward. Several hundred meters were like a square foot. He arrived in front of He Biao in 1 step and said, "Deference is no substitute for obedience." "Many thanks, Senior." Sigh. He Biao. I'm called He Biao. Within the 4 seas, all are brothers. Meeting is fate. Don't call me Senior, Senior. Let's drink wine together and eat meat together. We're brothers. Just call me He Biao. He Biao was clearly someone who did not care about status and seniority. Otherwise, in the martial arts world, based on cultivation and seniority, he was at least a high-level true master. In front of Yixing, he could totally be considered a senior. While talking, He Biao took out a large container. It was a wine cup as white as jade. There were dragons and phoenixes carved on the wine cup. It looked very noble. The white jade wine cup was more than 4 inches tall. It was more than an inch taller than the dark green wine bottle. However, He Biao picked up the dark green wine bottle and poured it into the wine cup, filling it to the brim. It could be seen that the dark green wine bottle was indeed a spatial treasure. The space inside was much larger than the size of the bottle. He Biao handed the wine cup filled with fine wine to Yixing and said, "Come, come, come. This is my collection of exceptional wine, drunken immortal wine. It was brewed by a master winemaker over 100 years. Good meat must be accompanied by good wine. Come. What's your name? Let's drink. I'm Yixing." "Many thanks, brother He Biao." Yixing took the wine cup. As an earthling, he did not have a strong sense of hierarchy. Since He Biao did not consider himself as a senior, Yixing naturally would not insist on being a junior and treat him as an equal. When one was outside, one should eat less of other people's food and drink less of other people's wine. Yixing had been in the Star Continent for almost 2 years. He naturally knew this. However, he took the wine cup from He Biao and did not hesitate. Instead, he directly drank a mouthful of wine. With He Biao's strength, if he wanted to harm Yixing, he did not need to use underhanded methods like poisoning the wine. He could just do it directly. Yixing would not be able to resist at all. Therefore, Yixing did not have any suspicions. He drank the wine in a free and easy manner. As the wine entered his mouth, it slid down his stomach. Yixing's heart was immediately filled with an extremely comfortable feeling. His mind shook, and in an instant, Yixing's perception suddenly increased by a large level. He could clearly sense the movement of the wind, the movement of the grass, and the movement of the insects around him. Yixing had only experienced this feeling in the dark world because of the black hole astrology. But now, just by drinking a mouthful of wine, he actually reached such a state. It could be seen that the wine he drank was indeed extraordinary. Yixing let out a long breath and praised, "Good wine. This wine actually has such an effect. It's much more precious than my frost python meat." The frost python meat was only delicious. In terms of benefits, it could not be compared to the Zui Xian, or wine. Although the frost python meat was a priceless treasure, this was only relative to foodies who focused on taste. To the vast majority of cultivators, the Zui Xian wine had such a miraculous effect and was much more precious than the frost python meat. Even though Yixing was also a foodie who liked good food and paid attention to taste, he also thought that the Zui Xian, or wine, was more precious than the frost python meat. He Biao also drank a mouthful of the Zui Xian, or wine, and then ate a big mouthful of the frost python meat. His eyes suddenly lit up. That feeling was as if his soul had been upgraded. After swallowing the frost python meat, He Biao's expression was still in a state of excitement. After a while, he said, "Good meat, it's really good meat. I, He Biao, have never eaten such good meat in my life, haha." "Yixing, you're wrong, very wrong. Although the Zui Xian wine is good, compared to this meat, it's a far cry, ha." For He Biao, although the Zui Xian wine was precious, he had a lot of it and had drunk a lot of it. It no longer had the effect of increasing his perception like the first time he drank it. Therefore, although the Zui Xian wine was good, in He Biao's eyes, it was just a good wine that he could drink at any time. But the frost python meat was different. The first time he ate it, the feeling of eating it was almost like his soul had been upgraded. It was refreshing to the extreme. For a foodie who paid attention to taste, this was simply a priceless treasure. He Biao was a foodie who paid attention to taste. The frost python meat to Yixing was like the zui xian, or wine to He Biao. It was something that could be eaten at any time. Therefore, they naturally felt that the other's food was better. Yixing drank the zui xian, or wine, while eating the frost python meat. He also felt as if his soul had been upgraded. Compared to just eating the frost python meat, it was indeed much more delicious. Moreover, with He Biao accompanying them, the two of them drank and ate while chatting. They felt incomparably happy, and it was much more refreshing than when they were eating alone. Just as He Biao said, it was better to have two people happy than one person happy. Yixing swallowed a piece of frost python meat and drank a mouthful of the zui xian, or wine. Then, he burped loudly and said, "Brother He Biao, are you from the 9 great sects?" According to Yixing's knowledge, only the 9 great sects of the true Xian domain had high-level star realm masters. 9 great sects. Oh. You mean the 9 great sects of the true Xian domain? He Biao, who was eating the frost python meat, was stunned. He immediately reacted and shook his head. "I'm not from the true Xian domain. My sect is the Dark Star sect. It's located in a very distant place. Today, my wife went to the hospital for a checkup. I only have time to write at night, so I can only maintain 2 chapters. The missing chapter will be filled tomorrow. The Heavenly Arrow God will also welcome its first ban. My brain is getting worse and worse. A few days ago, I decided to go to the hospital today. I had already forgotten about it last night. I sleep late, usually after midnight. I also wake up late in the morning. Today, my wife woke me up at 7 in the morning. I don't even know why I woke up so early. Damn, I was scolded. Thank you brothers for your support. I saw your comments in the book review section. Also, thank you rich readers for your support. In the last few days of this month, I will work hard to explode. Chapter 354. The Dark Star sect was definitely famous in the Star Continent. It was a superpower that could rival the Great Yuan dynasty. However, the Qingyun region was too small compared to the entire Star Continent. Not many people knew about the Dark Star sect. Even though it was the ruler of the Star Continent, the number of people who knew about it was even fewer. If it was some perfected masters who had ventured outside, they might know about the Dark Star sect. However, Yixing didn't know much about the Star Continent. He didn't even know about the Great Yuan dynasty, so how could he know about the Dark Star sect? Therefore, when Yixing heard about the Dark Star sect, his expression was normal. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well, without any ripples. Yixing drank a mouthful of zui xian wine and said, "Since the Dark Star sect is very far from here, why did Brother He Biao come to the Qingyun mountain range to cultivate?" "I was in the Qingyun region, but I didn't know about the Dark Canyon in the Qingyun mountain range to participate in the Dark Force." He Biao swallowed a piece of frost python meat and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, the Qingyun mountain range and the Dark Star sect are quite close. The founder of the Dark Star sect once walked out of here and later founded the Dark Star sect." Yixing's expression froze, and he said, "Your esteemed cult's founding ancestor must be an extremely powerful figure, right? Has there ever been such a strong person in the Azure Cloud Mountain range? When did this happen?" He Biao was at least a perfected master. In Yixing's opinion, the sect he came from was at least at the same level as the 9 great sects of the true Xian region, or even higher. The founders of the 9 great sects were at least peak perfected masters, or even legendary honorables. Therefore, it could be inferred that the founder of the Dark Star sect was at least at this level. The Qingyun mountain range was desolate and uninhabited. However, 1,500 years ago, there was a superior one-star sect in the Qingyun mountain range. Yixing couldn't help but wonder if the founder of the Qingyun mountain range was an expert who walked out of the Qingyun mountain range and founded the Dark Star sect. He Biao said, "The founder of our Dark Star sect is naturally powerful. About 2,000 years ago, our founder walked out of the Green Cloud Mountain Range. However, he did not stay in the Green Cloud Mountain Range. Instead, he traveled the world. 100 years later, he established the Dark Star sect. 2,000 years ago, the Azure Cloud sect still existed." Yixing was even more certain that the founder of the Dark Star sect was an expert from the Azure Cloud sect. However, what he did not expect was that the Dark Star sect was a power that could rival the Great Yuan dynasty. It was a 3-star power, far from what the Blue Cloud sect, a 1-star power, could compare with. A powerhouse from the Blue Cloud sect could establish a 3-star sect. This wasn't completely impossible. If this expert was a king-grade genius, after walking out of the Emerald Cloud sect, he would travel the world and eventually become a king who stood at the peak of the entire star continent. It would be reasonable for him to establish a 3-star sect. However, this was only a theoretical possibility. For a king-grade genius to appear in a 1-star sect, not to mention 10,000 years, it would be hard to come by even in 100,000 years. Moreover, if an expert from the Emerald Cloud sect stepped onto the peak of the star continent, became a king of a generation, and established a 3-star sect, then the Emerald Cloud sect, as the place where he came from, would definitely benefit from it. With the help of a king-grade genius and a 3-star sect, the Emerald Cloud sect could easily become a 2-star sect. However, 1,500 years ago, when the Emerald Cloud sect was destroyed, it was still a 1-star sect. This did not make sense. If Yixing knew how powerful the Dark Star sect was, he would definitely deduce that the founder of the Dark Star sect did not come from the Emerald Cloud sect. However, he now thought that the Dark Star sect was a power on the same level as the Emerald Cloud sect. Yixing did not get to the bottom of the matter. He believed that the relationship between the Emerald Cloud sect and the Dark Star sect was not shallow. Mentioning the destroyed Emerald Cloud sect was obviously impolite. Yixing did not continue to ask He Biao, but He Biao asked Yixing, "Which sect are you from? At such a young age, you have the cultivation of a half-step perfected person. Even in the entire star continent, you are considered pretty good. In the true Xian domain, you should be a first-rate genius." Yixing's heart trembled. Those who had seen the world were indeed different. He was not even 18 years old and was already a half-step perfected person. This had already far surpassed the younger generation of the Emerald Cloud sect. Even in the entire true Xian domain, there were very few who could be compared to him in the younger generation. Even if they could beat him, they would definitely be over 20 years old. At his age, there was probably no genius in the true Xian domain who could reach the cultivation of a half-step perfected person. However, according to He Biao, among the geniuses in the entire star continent, Yixing was only considered pretty good. Of course, He Biao was only talking about cultivation. He was not clear about Yixing's strength. In terms of strength, to be able to kill a 2-star perfected person before the age of 18, he was also a first-rate genius in the entire star continent. "I am a disciple of the Falling Star sect." Sigh. When Yixing mentioned that, his face suddenly revealed a disappointed expression. He then told He Biao about how the Falling Star sect had been annihilated by the other sections. He Biao sighed and said, "Whether it is a sect or an individual warrior, it is a cycle of life and death. When there is life, there is death. No matter how powerful a warrior or a sect is, there will be a day when it will be annihilated. The world of warriors is so cruel. In order to survive in this world, we can only follow the rules of this world. If someone kills your family, you will kill him. If a sect destroys your sect, you will destroy that sect. Yixing, we will drink wine and eat meat together. We are brothers. If you have any difficulties, I can help you. However, you have to take back your dignity. You have to avenge your hatred." Yixing nodded and said, "Of course. Brother He Biao, I have already drunk your wine. If you take me to the dark canyon, it will be the greatest help to me. In 2 months, the Young Hero Assembly will be held. The reward for first place will be something I need. I have to increase my strength as much as possible to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. He Biao was puzzled. You are indeed a top genius in the true Xian domain. However, you are still too young. It is not easy to get first place in the Young Hero Assembly. I wish you good luck. After drinking the wine and eating the meat, He Biao stood up and clapped his hands. Come with me to the dark canyon. I hope you can gain something. The dark canyon was only a few dozen miles away from the place where Yixing practiced martial arts. Yixing followed He Biao and soon arrived at the dark canyon. This was a canyon that was about 1,000 meters long and dozens of meters wide. Although it was daytime, the canyon was dim and it was difficult to see the bottom. Perhaps this was where the name of the dark canyon came from. Yixing scanned with his super brain and saw through the darkness of the canyon. He saw the bottom of the canyon, which was about 100 meters deep. The power of darkness in the dark canyon is very strong and of a very high level. How much you can comprehend will depend on your perception. You drank the drunken immortal wine for the first time. It should have a great effect on your perception and perception. Before the effect of the wine wears off, it is the best time to comprehend the power of heaven and earth. He Biao stood beside the dark canyon and said to Yixing. Then, he jumped into the dark canyon. He Biao's voice came from the bottom of the canyon. I am going into seclusion to comprehend. Don't disturb me. You can leave whenever you want. He Biao was attracted by the fragrance of the frost python meat. His heart itched and he stopped comprehending. All his previous efforts were wasted. Now that he was full, he was ready to go into seclusion to comprehend. He hoped to comprehend the power of darkness to perfection as soon as possible. Yixing also entered the dark canyon. He sat cross-legged and sensed the aura of darkness around him. With He Biao beside him, Yixing did not use the black hole astrology. Instead, he relied on his own perception to comprehend. 1 breath. 2 breaths. 3 breaths, soon, more than 10 breaths passed. Yixing could not sense the slightest bit of the power of darkness. It was as if this was an ordinary canyon. If He Biao had not brought him here, Yixing would not have known that this was a suitable place to comprehend the power of darkness. However, because of He Biao's example, even if Yixing could not sense the power of darkness, he continued to calm his mind and focus on comprehending the aura around him. Time ticked by. An hour had passed, but Yixing still hadn't sensed the power of darkness. However, Yixing's heart was as calm as still water. He continued to sense it. Since He Biao could comprehend the power of darkness here, there must be something. After nearly 2 hours, Yixing finally gained something. Chapter 355. When Yixing sensed the darkness around him, he felt as if he had entered a world of darkness. Everything around him was pitch black. He couldn't even see his fingers if he stretched them out. This scene was similar to Yixing using the black hole astrology. However, the world of darkness created by the black hole astrology was like Yixing's sense of touch. Yixing could clearly sense everything within a radius of 10 miles in this world of darkness. But now, the world of darkness was like a prison. It sealed off Yixing's vision and senses. Yixing couldn't see or sense anything in the darkness around him. What a terrifying darkness! Yixing was startled. He immediately understood that the reason he couldn't sense the darkness wasn't because there wasn't any in the canyon, but because the darkness in the canyon was too high level. With Yixing's level of comprehension of the darkness, it was very difficult to sense it. In the clear sky area, Yixing's understanding of the force of darkness was absolutely one of the best. Even he found it difficult to sense the force of darkness in the dark canyon. Naturally, other martial artists, even Dao masters of the older generation wouldn't be able to sense it. Therefore, the martial artists in the Clear Sky region didn't know that there was a dark canyon in the Clear Sky mountain range where one could comprehend the darkness. Perhaps someone had come to this canyon before, but to the martial artists in the Clear Sky region, this was just an ordinary canyon. No one would care about it. Yixing was overjoyed. With his perception, as long as he comprehended the darkness, it was impossible for him to gain nothing. The darkness in the canyon was so high level. It was very likely that he would be able to comprehend the darkness to the minute's subtlety realm here. As time passed, Yixing's senses slowly seeped into the surrounding darkness. Yixing's understanding of the dark force had reached an extremely profound level in the first stage. He was not far away from the second stage, which was the hyperfocus realm. This would be of great help to him in comprehending the dark force in the dark canyon. Time passed day by day. Yixing's comprehension of the dark force in the dark canyon increased day by day. Compared to the speed of martial arts cultivation, Yixing's comprehension of the dark force was extremely slow. However, the comprehension of the grand momentum of heaven and earth obviously could not be discussed together with the cultivation of martial arts. The difficulty of the two was on a completely different level. Many true masters below the 7th level of the astral realm could train their upper-class spiritual martial force to the great completion. However, very few could comprehend the heavenly force to the subtle realm. Especially for a special heavenly force like the dark force, it was even more difficult to comprehend. Compared to Yixing's cultivation, Yixing's comprehension of the dark force could be described as advancing at a tremendous pace. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters. As Yixing's understanding of the force of darkness grew deeper and deeper, Yixing's sensing range in the surrounding world of darkness grew wider and wider. 10 days later, he could sense 5 meters away. 20 days later, he could sense 10 meters away. 25 days later. Yixing's comprehension of the force of darkness finally showed a qualitative improvement. His mind moved, and his entire body emitted a strong qi of darkness. His force of darkness had broken through the small completion and entered the subtle realm. Yixing's sensing range in the surrounding world of darkness suddenly increased and extended to 30 meters away. Within 30 meters, the darkness was like Yixing's sense of touch. It was clearly sensed by Yixing. In the middle of the canyon, He Biao was surprised when he sensed the qi of darkness emitted by Yixing. The force of darkness has reached the subtle realm. Good kid, he is only a half-step true master, but he can comprehend the force of darkness to this extent. He is even more monstrous than I expected. Yixing's comprehension of the force of darkness was beyond He Biao's expectations. He Biao thought to himself, even in the Dark Star sect, there are only a handful of geniuses who can comprehend the force of darkness to the subtle realm when they are only half-step true masters. Such a monstrous genius is actually hidden in a small place like the Qingyun region. I wonder how strong he is and what his potential is. Could he be a true dragon? He Biao opened his eyes and his eyes lit up. Originally, he wasn't interested in the true Xian region's young hero assembly. However, because of Yixing, he was interested. It's still early. I will go and take a look when the young hero assembly begins. He Biao thought to himself and closed his eyes again. He continued to comprehend the force of darkness. His force of darkness was only one step away from perfection. However, this last step was extremely difficult to cross. With my cultivation, the force of darkness has already reached the subtle realm. It is extremely difficult to improve it further. There is only a month left before the young hero assembly. I should be on my way. Yixing thought to himself. He did not disturb He Biao and left the dark canyon. From the black armored iron bull's consciousness, Yixing found out about the nearby territories of some powerful demonic beasts. About 1,000 miles away, there was a demonic beast equivalent to the 3-star venerable, the silver-winged demonic condor. The silver-winged demonic condor was the descendant of the golden-winged demonic condor king. It was a rank 3 demonic beast. After reaching adulthood, most of the demonic beasts would become early rank 3 demonic beasts. Only a few of them could grow into mid-rank 3 demonic beasts. If its wings turned golden, it would become a golden-winged demonic condor. It could grow into a high rank 3 demonic beast, equivalent to a high rank star venerable. As for the golden-winged demonic condor king, it was a rank 4 demonic beast, equivalent to a human honorable. If it was a mid-rank 3 silver-winged demonic condor, Yi Xing would not dare to provoke it. However, this silver-winged demonic condor was an early rank 3 demonic beast. Its strength was equivalent to the 3-star venerable. Under the attack of Yi Xing's eye of clear cloud, it naturally could not withstand it. In just a few dozen breaths of time, it was completely subdued by Yi Xing. Riding on the silver-winged demonic condor, Yi Xing ordered it to fly towards the star crystal vein. The silver-winged demonic condor's flying speed was slightly faster than the purple flame monarch condor. The distance of several thousand miles was covered in less than half a day. Yi Xing did not enter the star crystal vein. Instead, he observed from afar. Seeing that the star crystal vein was still in the hands of he was relieved. He rode on the silver-winged demonic condor and flew towards the north. That was the direction of the 9 Sect Alliance's headquarters, 9 Heaven City. On the way, Yi Xing inquired about the news when he passed by a city. More than a month after the 10 Sect Grand Tournament ended, the Clear Sky region had undergone great changes. First, it was the Falling Star Sect that was destroyed. This was something that Yi Xing naturally knew. However, half a month after the Falling Star Sect was destroyed, the Spirit Moon Sect also suffered a calamity. They were annihilated in a single night, and it was said that there were only a few survivors. The martial artist who annihilated the Spirit Moon Sect left behind 4 large words on the mountain gate of the Spirit Moon Sect: "Dun invincible, demon star must die." It was said that the annihilation of the Spirit Moon Sect was related to the strongest force in the entire star mainland, the Dun dynasty. The reason seemed to be related to the Virgo constellation that appeared briefly in the Spirit Moon Sect. This was the first time that Yi Xing heard news about the Dun dynasty. At the same time, he also remembered the Dun dynasty in his heart. This was because the Virgo constellation martial artist that the Dun dynasty was looking for, Yi Xing knew that it was none other than Wei Qingxian. Sage Yanyu had told Yi Xing that Wei Qingxian had caused a great commotion when she broke through to the martial saint realm and awakened her Virgo constellation. She was then taken away by a king on the grounds of safety. It seemed that the king had already predicted this outcome. The Spirit Moon Sect would not be able to protect the peerless genius Wei Qingxian. Why would the Dun dynasty want to kill Wei Qingxian? Could it be because Wei Qingxian possesses a constellation? If that's the case, then I possess the Sagittarius constellation. Wouldn't that make me a target for the Dun dynasty? Yi Xing thought that if he revealed his Sagittarius constellation, he would probably end up like Wei Qingxian and be listed as a target for the Dun dynasty. What he did not know was that in reality, he was the true target of the Dun dynasty. He was the demon star that the Dun dynasty had mentioned. The Falling Star Sect and the Spirit Moon Sect were annihilated within a month. The world of martial artists is indeed cruel. If one does not have enough strength, one would be in a precarious situation. Yi Xing was touched, and his desire to become stronger grew even stronger. Other than the annihilation of the Spirit Moon Sect, the Flying Cloud Sect did not have it easy either. Because of Chou Buohong's death, the Flying Cloud Sect came up with another explanation. Yun Zhanfei was dead, but Yi Xing was not. The Sun Moon Sect and the other sects believed this explanation. However, they did not believe it verbally. Under the pressure of the Sun Moon Sect and the other sects, the Flying Cloud Sect had to compensate a large amount of star crystals and spirit weapons. Under the intervention of the Tian Luo sect, the Sun-Moon sect withdrew their hands from the 6 southern sects. The East supporting sect was unable to take down the Falling Star sect's final fortress. The southern part of the Azure Cloud Mountain range was temporarily peaceful. However, Yixing knew that this peace would not last for long. When he returned, the Azure Cloud region would be turned upside down. Chapter 356. The silver-winged demonic eagle was flying high up in the sky. Yixing sat on the eagle's back. Since he had nothing to do during the journey, he was comprehending the knowledge of arrays that Venerable Qin Yun had left in his mind to improve his attainment in arrays. Even if it was only flying during the day, the silver-winged demonic eagle could travel close to 100,000 miles in a day. On the second day, Yixing left the Qin Yun region. At night, Yixing would sometimes stay in a hotel in the town to rest. He would ask around for directions to ensure that he was not going the wrong way. Sometimes, he would hide in the wings of the silver-winged demonic eagle and make do for the night. 10 days later, Yixing finally arrived at his destination, Nine Heaven City. Nine Heaven City was the biggest city in the True Xian region. Although the 9 high sects were not located here, the headquarters of the 9 Sect Alliance was located in Nine Heaven City. The 9 Sect Alliance controlled the entire True Xian region. No sect in the True Xian region dared to disobey their orders. Above them, the 9 Sect Alliance obeyed the 2-Star Empire and the 2-Star Empire obeyed the 3-Star Empire. In the Star Continent, there was only one dynasty, and that was the Great Yuan dynasty. In theory, an order from the Great Yuan dynasty could be passed down through the layers, and it was sufficient to command the entire world. Of course, this was only in theory. In reality, there were sects in the Star Mainland that the Great Yuan Empire could not command. For example, the Dark Star sect. If the Dark Star Church didn't listen to the Great Yuan dynasty's orders, there would naturally be other sects that followed suit. However, one thing was for sure, the sects that didn't listen to the Great Yuan dynasty's orders were all hidden forces of the Star Continent. They couldn't openly appear in the world. Even a sect as strong as the Dark Star sect that fought against the Great Yuan Empire could only live in the shadows. They did not dare to reveal their stronghold to the public. Otherwise, they would be destroyed by the Great Yuan Empire. The Dark Star sect's martial artists had to hide their identities when they traveled the world. If they were exposed, they would be killed by the Great Yuan Empire. The 9 high sects of the True Xian region were all open forces that obeyed the Great Yuan Empire's orders. As the headquarters of the 9 Sect Alliance and the biggest city in the True Xian region, Nine Heaven City was extremely majestic. It covered a radius of 1,000 miles and had a population of over 100 million. Yixing stood on the back of the silver-winged demonic eagle and looked at Nine Heaven City from the sky. The Nine Heaven City was divided into the inner city and the outer city. The 300 miles radius of the inner city was where the 9 Sect Alliance's headquarters were located. It was shrouded by a formation, and other than the 9 high sects martial artists, no one else was allowed to fly in the sky. The outer city surrounded the inner city, and the area was much larger. More than 90% of the city's population was in the outer city area, and it was divided into 4 districts: north, south, east, and west. The eastern district was a super big market. There were businesses owned by the various sects of the true mystic domain. There were weapon pavilions, elixir pavilions, array pavilions, and other shops that sold weapons, elixir pavilions, array discs, as well as all kinds of material stores. There were also various markets such as auctions, caged battle arenas, slave markets, and so on. The South District was a place of accommodation and entertainment. There were inns, hotels, restaurants, tea houses, brothels, and other buildings everywhere. The west side of the city was where some of the local sects and sects of the 9 Heaven City were stationed. Needless to say, there were some small sects and many of them were 1-star sects. The stronger ones were even comparable to one-star sects. The North District was the slums. Some of the 9 Heaven City's local residents and wandering martial artists lived in this district. It was a mix of good and bad people. Yixing rode on the silver-winged demon eagle and flew directly into the South District. At the center of the South District, there was a 7-story inn that was dozens of meters tall. Yixing looked at the entrance of the inn. 7 Treasures Inn. Outside the 7 Treasures Inn, there were a few waiters and all of them were martial sages. In the Fallen Star Kingdom, martial sages were legends to ordinary martial artists. In most of the cities, there were no martial sages. Even in the county cities, there were very few martial sages. Most of them were ordinary martial artists, and there were even some who had not stepped into the martial Dao. However, in the 9 Heaven City, everyone that Yixing saw was at least a Star Vortex Realm martial artist, and all of them were martial sages. In the 9 Heaven City, Star Vortex Realm martial artists were called Star Marquis, and martial sages were the names given to Star Vortex Realm martial artists in the remote Qingyun region. Young hero, do you want to stay or have a meal? This inn provides first-class accommodation and food service. We also have professional demonic beast caregivers to take care of your pet beast. Seeing Yixing and the silver-winged demon eagle walking up, one of the waiters outside the 7 Treasures Inn walked out and welcomed Yixing. At this time, there were other martial artists who came to the 7 Treasures Inn, and the other waiters also went up to welcome them. If it was in the Fallen Star Kingdom, martial sages would be scared half to death if they saw a Grade 3 demonic beast. However, although this waiter took a few more glances at the silver-winged demon eagle, his expression was very calm. It was obvious that he had seen many Grade 3 demonic beasts, so it was not strange. Accommodation. Yixing nodded to the waiters. The waiters bowed and said, "Young hero, please come in. Your demonic beast, please follow me. I will bring it to the demonic beast area." For the sake of the other guests in the inn, demonic beasts are not allowed in the food and accommodation area. I hope young hero can understand. Yixing patted the silver-winged demon eagle and gestured for it to follow the waiters. He walked directly into the 7 Treasures Inn. The first floor of the 7 Treasures Inn was a spacious hall. On both sides of the hall, there were many tables with many martial artists seated. Most of them were Star Vortex Realm Marquises, but most of them were high-level Star Vortex Realm Marquises. Yixing booked a superior room at the front desk. There was still about a month before the young hero assembly began, so Yixing booked it for a month. The accommodation in the 7 Treasures Inn wasn't cheap. The superior room cost 500 low-grade star crystals a day. In addition to the care of the demonic beast, it cost 600 low-grade star crystals a day. A month would cost 18,000 low-grade star crystals, and the food would be calculated separately. In the Qingyun region, if an ordinary half-step perfected one stayed in the 7 Treasures Inn for a month, their hearts would bleed. However, to Yixing, this was nothing. He had received 300,000 low-grade star crystals as a reward during the 10-sect tournament, and all of them were with him. Moreover, Lu Tianyuan had given him the sect master's gift, which contained a few thousand mid-grade star crystals. Before he left the star crystal mine, Zishan Ho and Gu Tianshang had given Yixing tens of thousands of mid-grade star crystals. 10,000 mid-grade star crystals were equivalent to 1,000,000 low-grade star crystals. Yixing wasn't an ordinary wealthy person. His wealth was equivalent to that of an ordinary sect. Among the astral realm perfected ones, there were only a handful of perfected ones below the 4-star level who were wealthier than him. Esteemed guest, your room is number 707. You are staying in this inn. You can head to the 2nd floor for your meal. The beautiful receptionist at the front desk of the inn said as she received Yixing's low-grade star crystals. Her eyes lit up as she looked at Yixing. Yixing nodded and went up to the 2nd floor. The rooms were from the 3rd floor onward. The first and second floors were for dining. However, compared to the first floor, the decorations on the second floor were obviously more elegant and luxurious. Moreover, there were many private rooms on the second floor. The tables in the hall on the first floor couldn't be compared to them. Yixing wasn't in a hurry to go to room 707. Instead, he sat down by a window on the second floor. He ordered a gourd of good wine and a few good dishes, and started to enjoy them alone. As it was his first time here, Yixing was unfamiliar with the Nine Heaven City. There were many guests on the second floor of the inn, and many of them were astral realm perfected ones. Yixing wanted to listen to the news and broaden his horizons. Inns and restaurants had always been places for people of the underworld to chat. If one wanted to listen to news, this place was the best place to go. Yixing condensed his astral energy in his ears, and his hearing was extremely sensitive. As long as he listened carefully, he could hear what the other party was talking about as long as they didn't intentionally lower their voices. After listening carefully for a while, Yixing realized that most of the martial artists in the inn were talking about the Young Hero Assembly. The most relevant thing about the Young Hero Assembly was the younger generation geniuses participating in the Young Hero Assembly. When talking about the younger generation geniuses of the true Xian region, they would definitely talk about the Earth Profound ranking. There are new geniuses in every generation. The new generation will surpass the old. The number of perfected ones in this generation of the true Xian region's younger generation is more than 20. It can be said to be the most in 1,000 years. Yeah. Last year, there were only 10 perfected ones on the Earth Profound ranking. This year, there were 10 more perfected ones. More than 20 perfected ones appeared on the Earth Profound ranking in the same generation. Such a grand event only happened 1,000 years ago. I heard that other regions are also producing young geniuses. The Great Yuan dynasty allowed the entire continent to hold a competition among the younger generation. They have mobilized the martial Tao fate of the entire continent. Indeed. Every 1,000 years, there will be a golden age. The current era is a golden age for the entire star continent. The plot transition is not easy to write. Today, I can only update twice. The plot of the Nine Heaven City is unfolding. I will definitely update 3 times tomorrow. Thank you for your support and understanding. Chapter 357. Yixing found out that the 9 sect alliances had gathered the younger generation of the true Xian region for the Young Hero Assembly because of the Great Yuan dynasty's order. Through the discussions of the crowd, Yixing also gained a rough understanding of the star continent. The star continent was extremely vast. Just the land area alone was hard to describe. It was more than 100 million miles. Moreover, the star continent wasn't an entire continent. It was a collective name for the 5 continents, separated by a vast ocean. The 5 continents were called the Middle Sky Continent, East Divine Continent, South Divine Continent, West He Divine Continent, North Tranquil Continent. Among them, the Middle Sky Continent was the largest. Its area was comparable to the other 4 continents combined. It was the most powerful region in the Star Continent. The ruler of the Star Continent, the Great Yuan dynasty, was located in the Middle Sky Continent. The Great Yuan dynasty occupied half of the Middle Sky Continent. Its area was larger than any of the other 4 continents combined. As for the other half of the Middle Sky Continent, it was the territory of the 12 affiliated empires of the Great Yuan dynasty. These 12 affiliated empires were all upper-rank empires. Any one of them could dominate a region in the other 4 continents. Compared to the Middle Sky Continent, the East Divine Continent was much smaller and more fragmented. Unlike the Middle Sky Continent, which only had 1 dynasty and 12 empires, it was divided into 108 regions and countless countries. The East Divine Continent was divided into 36 major regions and 72 minor regions. Regions with 2-star sects were called major regions. Regions with 1-star sects were called minor regions. The True Xian region was one of the 72 lower regions. Within the region, there were no 2-star sects with honorable realm experts. As for the other 3 regions, no one talked about them in detail. Yixing estimated that the situation was similar to the East Divine Continent. A year ago, Yang Gang from the Tiangang sect was the only one on the Earth Profound ranking. He was a 3-star spiritual master, and he was ranked first on the Earth Profound ranking. This year, Meng Ji and Bai Tsang, who were ranked 2nd and 3rd on the Earth Profound ranking, had also broken through to the 3rd level of the star realm. I wonder if Yang Gang will be able to keep his first place on the Earth Profound ranking after the Young Hero Assembly. The Boundless Sects Meng Ji and the White Bone Gates Bai Tsang are both disciples of the 9 great sects. After breaking through to the 3rd star Enlightened Master realm, their strength must have improved greatly. However, Yang Gang is also a disciple of the 9 great sects. He reached the 3rd star Enlightened Master realm a year earlier than the 2 of them. Keeping the first place on the Earth Profound ranking shouldn't be a problem. Currently, there are only 3 3-star Enlightened Masters on the Earth Profound ranking. Yang Gang, Meng Ji, and Bai Tsang's top 3 positions should be unshakable. However, many new Enlightened Masters have risen this year. I'm afraid that the top 10 positions of the Earth Profound ranking will change quite a bit. In my opinion, the one with the biggest change should be the Earth Fiend sect's genius disciple, Shi Wenxie. He was originally ranked 10th on the Earth Profound ranking. Although the Earth Fiend sect is not one of the 9 superior sects, it is still a first-rate force in the 9 heaven city other than the 9 sect alliances. When Shi Wenxie was a 1-star Enlightened Master, he was already invincible among his peers. He even defeated a 2-star Enlightened Master once. Furthermore, his ranking on the Earth Profound ranking even surpassed the Golden Sword sect's 2-star Enlightened Master disciple, Mu Ziyue. I heard that Shi Wenxie's cultivation has already broken through to the 2nd level of the astral realm and became a 2-star Enlightened Master. Hee. I wonder how many 2-star Enlightened Masters from the 9 great sects are his match. Is this true? Shi Wenxie broke through to the 2-star Enlightened Master realm. It should be true. Then that's terrifying. Shi Wenxie's battle strength is heaven-defying. I'm afraid that there are very few Enlightened Masters who are his match. I estimate that Shi Wenxie will very likely rush to the 4th place on the Earth Profound ranking. Over the years, the top 10 of the Earth Profound ranking has always been occupied by the disciples of the 9 great sects. The other sects rarely have a genius who can enter the top 10 of the Earth Profound ranking in the past 100 years. When Shi Wenxie was a 1-star Enlightened Master, he was already able to enter the 10th place on the Earth Profound ranking. This is already very impressive. If he rushes to the 4th place, TSK. This should break the record of the Earth Profound ranking in the past 1,000 years. Actually, other than Shi Wenxie, there's another person who is also very frightening. His ability to challenge those of a higher level is even greater than Shi Wenxie's. Furthermore, he's extremely young, not even 20 years old. Hee. I know who you're talking about. Is it the genius disciple of the Golden Sword sect, Mu Xiaoyue? Yes, it's Mu Xiaoyue. He's not even 19 years old, but he's already half a step into the Enlightened Master realm. Furthermore, his sword arts have reached perfection. He's comprehended the grand force of metal to the minute realm. He has defeated many 1-star Enlightened Masters and is known as the #1 genius of the True Xian region in the past 1,000 years. His reputation as a genius is even above Shi Wenxie's. His battle prowess is indeed more heaven-defying than Shi Wenxie's. If Mu Xiaoyue breaks through the astral realm and becomes a 1-star Enlightened Master, with his battle prowess, he might be able to defeat a 2-star Enlightened Master. That's a sure thing. Furthermore, I've received news that Mu Xiaoyue has already broken through the astral realm and become a 1-star enlightened master. His ranking on the Earth Profound ranking should skyrocket and rush into the top 10. He might even trample the few 2-star enlightened masters on the Earth Profound ranking under his feet. Tisk Tsk. A 19-year-old 1-star enlightened master. Looks like Mu Xiaoyue will shine in this young hero assembly. I wonder if he can defeat Shui Yan of the Fire Cloud sect when he's still a 1-star enlightened master. Shui Yan's cultivation is at the peak of the 2nd level of the astral realm and he's ranked 4th on the Earth Profound ranking. Mu Xiaoyue has just broken through to the 1-star enlightened master, while Shui Yan is at the peak of the 2nd level of the astral realm. He's not far from breaking through to the 3-star enlightened master. Shui Yan is the strongest among the younger generation of the 2-star enlightened masters. Mu Xiaoyue's chances of defeating him are not high. If Mu Xiaoyue can really defeat Shui Yan, then he can compete with Shi Wenxie for the new 4th place on the Earth Profound ranking. Yixing focused his astral energy into his ears. While he was pondering, he not only heard the reason why the Young Hero Assembly was being held, but he also heard the news of many young geniuses in the True Xian domain. Currently, among the young geniuses in the True Xian domain, the 3-star enlightened masters, Yang Gang, Meng Ji, and Bai Cang, were the strongest. They occupied the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd places on the Earth Profound ranking. Furthermore, Yang Gang was in the Big Dipper sect, Meng Ji was in the Boundless sect, and Bai Cang was in the Whitebone sect. They were the 3 strongest sects in the True Xian domain's 9 high sects. However, the cultivators in the inn were not talking about Yang Gang, Meng Ji, and Bai Cang. Instead, they were talking about Shi Wenxie and Mu Xiaoyue, the 2 geniuses who could fight above their level. Shi Wenxie was a disciple of the Earth Fiend sect. Although the Earth Fiend sect was not one of the 9 high sects, it was a top 1-star medium sect. It was a local force in the 9 Heaven City. In the True Xian domain, other than the 9 high sects, the Earth Fiend sect's strength could be said to be one of the best. Although they were both 1-star medium sects, the Azure Cloud region's 4 northern sects, the Tian Luo sect and the Dark Nether sect did not even have a 6 stars enlightened master. The Sun Moon sect and the Blue Thunder sect only had 1 6 stars enlightened master each. As for the Earth Fiend sect, they had as many as 3 6 stars enlightened masters. The Earth Fiend sect's strength was stronger than the 4 1-star medium sects of the Azure Cloud region combined. Shi Wenxie was invincible in the astral realm. He even had the battle record of challenging someone above his level. The sect behind him was also very powerful. Naturally, he was very famous. Moreover, his cultivation had broken through to the 2nd level of the astral realm this year. During the Young Hero Assembly, there would probably be many 2-star enlightened masters who were ranked higher than him on the Earth Profound ranking. Naturally, he would be the talk of the town. However, the most talked about person was not Shi Wenxie, but Mu Xiaoyue of the Golden Sword sect. As the saying went, there was always someone better than you. There was no better genius, only the most talented. Mu Xiaoyue was a monstrous genius of the younger generation who was even more talented than Shi Wenxie. He was known as the #1 genius of the True Xian domain in the past 1,000 years. Before the age of 19, Mu Xiaoyue had already become a half-step enlightened master and had defeated many 1-star enlightened masters. A half-step enlightened master defeating a 1-star enlightened master. This kind of battle record was even more shocking than Shi Wenxie's. Moreover, Mu Xiaoyue was 19 years old and had already broken through to the astral realm to become a 1-star enlightened master. Shi Wenxie had only broken through to the 1-star enlightened master when he was 20 years old. He was now 22.5 years old and had only reached the 2-star enlightened master realm. In terms of cultivation, Shi Wenxie was superior to Mu Xiaoyue because of his age. If they were in the same age group, Shi Wenxie would be inferior. As a result, Mu Xiaoyue naturally became the hot topic of the Young Hero Assembly. This Young Hero Assembly was related to the change of the Earth Profound ranking. All the warriors of the True Xian domain wanted to know how Mu Xiaoyue, the number one genius of the True Xian domain in the past 1,000 years, would shine in the Young Hero Assembly. Chapter 358. Apart from Yang Gang, Meng Ji, and Bai Zhang, who stood in the top 3 of the Earth Profound ranking, as well as Shi Wendian and Mu Xiaoyue, who had heaven-defying battle prowess, Yixing had more or less heard some news about the other young geniuses. Yixing already knew a lot about the geniuses at the top of the Earth Profound ranking. There was no need to talk about the top 3. Shui Yan, ranked 4th on the Earth Profound ranking, a 2-star enlightened master, a disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, one of the 9 great sects. Nan Xingyue, 5th on the Earth Profound ranking, a 2-star enlightened master, and a disciple of the Flying Rainbow sect, one of the 9 high sects. Du Feiyun, ranked 6th on the Earth Profound ranking, a 2-star spiritual master, and a disciple of the Flowing Wind sect, one of the 9 great sects. Shi Du, ranked 7th on the Earth Profound ranking, a 2-star spiritual master, and a disciple of the Spirit Snake sect, one of the 9 great sects. Mu Xiaoyue was one of the most dazzling geniuses of the younger generation. All of the martial artists on the second floor of the inn gradually shifted the topic of discussion to Mu Xiaoyue. There were endless debates about whether Mu Xiaoyue could defeat Shui Yan, who was currently ranked 4th on the Earth Profound ranking. Shui Yan is definitely no match for Mu Xiaoyue. A youth with a sword on his back fiercely slammed his fist on the table. His expression was somewhat excited as he said, Mu Xiaoyue is a monstrous genius of the True Xian region that hasn't appeared in 1,000 years. His swordsmanship has reached perfection. Now that his cultivation has broken through to the astral realm, who among the 2-star enlightened masters can match him? How could Shui Yan have the qualifications to be his opponent? If the two of them were to fight, Mu Xiaoyue would definitely be able to defeat him with a single strike. Mu Xiaoyue was a sword Dao powerhouse, and so was this young man with a sword on his back. It was obvious that he worshipped Mu Xiaoyue very much. When he heard some people say that Mu Xiaoyue was inferior to Shui Yan, he became excited. The Fire Cloud sect was ranked 4th among the 9 high sections. It was only inferior to the Heavenly Dipper sect, Boundless sect, and White Bone sect. As a genius disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, Shui Yan naturally had no lack of warriors fawning over him. The sword-bearing youth had said that Mu Xiaoyue could defeat Shui Yan with a single sword strike, which made many people dissatisfied. A middle-aged man at the first level of the astral realm said, "What does a brat know? He only knows blind worship." Mu Xiaoyue is indeed powerful. When he breaks through to the astral realm, he can defeat many 2-stars enlightened masters. However, young Master Shui Yan is only one step away from breaking through to the 3rd-star enlightened master. He is the strongest 2-stars enlightened master. Mu Xiaoyue is definitely not a match for young Master Shui Yan. This middle-aged man was a rogue cultivator who did not belong to any sect. He had worked as a waiter in the 9 Heaven City and received benefits from the Fire Cloud sect. Later on, he broke through to the astral realm and became a perfected person by chance. He then became a guest elder of a small sect in the 9 Heaven City. Among the martial sages in the 9 Heaven City, he could be considered a legendary figure. There were many ordinary people in the 9 Heaven City who didn't belong to any sect. They relied on their own efforts and luck to make a name for themselves. Some of them became high-level star marquises, some became half-step enlightened masters, and some even became enlightened masters with a lifespan of 200 years. Countless ordinary martial sages in the 9 Heaven City treated the achievements of these rogue enlightened masters as their lifelong goal. However, although this 1-star enlightened master was a legendary figure among the rogue martial sages in the 9 Heaven City, he was nothing compared to the cultivators in the world of sections. The Fire Cloud sect and the Golden Sword sect were existences that he looked up to. However, he had received benefits from the Fire Cloud sect in the past, so his words naturally sided with the Fire Cloud sect. At the same time, he did not smear Mu Xiaoyue's name. He was sure that Mu Xiaoyue was a genius, but he did not think that Mu Xiaoyue could defeat Shui Yan. That's right. Shui Yan is at the peak of the second level of the astral realm. Although Mu Xiaoyue is powerful, he has just broken through to the astral realm. He shouldn't be a match for Shui Yan. On the second floor of the inn, many cultivators were saying this. They believed that Mu Xiaoyue was powerful, but they did not believe that Mu Xiaoyue was so powerful that he could defeat Shui Yan. When his idol was questioned, the young man became even more agitated. His face turned red. The young man stood up and said loudly, "I saw with my own eyes that Mu Xiaoyue defeated a 2-star enlightened master when he was a half-step enlightened master. Now that Mu Xiaoyue has broken through to the astral realm, even Shi Xiangxia is no match for Mu Xiaoyue, let alone Shui Yan. This is getting more and more ridiculous. A half-step enlightened master defeated a 2-star enlightened master, haha. Young man, you must be joking. You mean that Mu Xiaoyue has broken through to the astral realm and can fight with a 3-star enlightened master? What nonsense. Young man, you're way too stupid. You're daydreaming right now." The young man's words did not gain the approval of the cultivators. Many of them roared with laughter. There were even some martial artists who had remained neutral in the debate between Mu Xiaoyue and Shui Yan, but at this moment, all of them were laughing at the sword-bearing youth. A half-step enlightened master defeated a 2-star enlightened master. What a joke. None of the cultivators believed the young man's words. They all thought that he was bragging. But there was one exception. Yixing's eyes lit up as he looked at the young man. Others might not believe that a half-step enlightened master could defeat a 2-star enlightened master, but he did. If what the young man said was true, then Mu Xiaoyue's strength should be much stronger than what everyone thought. If a half-step enlightened master could defeat a 2-star enlightened master, then it was entirely possible for a 1-star enlightened master to defeat a 3-star enlightened master after breaking through to the astral realm. In Yixing's heart, Mu Xiaoyue was an opponent on the same level as Yang Gang, Meng Ji, and Bai Zhang. In this young hero assembly, Yixing's goal was to obtain the resurrection elixir as the reward for first place. Naturally, he wanted to compete with the strongest young geniuses in the true Xian domain. Yixing knew very well which of the younger generation were the most powerful geniuses in the true Xian region. Who is boasting shamelessly and insulting my senior brother Shui Yan? Just as the cultivators were mocking the young man, a woman's voice came from the stairs. Following the voice was a scorching aura. The voice was extremely angry. All the cultivators on the second floor of the inn looked towards the stairs. If the person addressed Shui Yan as senior brother, then she was definitely a disciple of the Fire Cloud sect. A disciple of one of the 9 high sects that could travel outside was no ordinary person. Some of the cultivators glanced at the young man. The person who came was a disciple of the Fire Cloud sect. With an angry voice, the young man was probably going to suffer. Dong! 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 Footsteps were heard. A few seconds later, 2 beautiful women walked up to the second floor. The eyes of the cultivators on the second floor lit up. The woman walking in front was wearing a fiery red short skirt. She looked to be in her early 20s, and her 2 slender white legs were exposed. The woman behind her was wearing tight black clothes with a few black spiders embroidered on it. She looked to be a few years older, but her figure was even hotter. The exquisite curves of her body were perfectly outlined, especially the clothes that covered her chest. There was a palm-sized tear in it, and her towering breasts pushed the tear open, revealing 2 snow-white hemispheres. The 2 beautiful women were at the first level of the astral realm. The woman in the short skirt in front had a terrifying aura that emitted a scorching aura. The person who spoke was obviously her. It's her, the other genius disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, Lin. She is ranked 13th on the Earth Profound ranking and is also an incredible genius. She is also one of the participants of this young hero assembly. In the end, someone recognized the woman in the fiery red short skirt and exclaimed softly. As for the woman in black with her chest exposed, more people recognized her, the Black Widow of the Earth Fiend sect. She is a vicious woman. Although she is over 25 years old and has stepped down from the Earth Profound ranking, she was once ranked in the top 20 of the Earth Profound ranking. The Fire Cloud sect disciple, Lin, glanced sharply at the cultivators on the second floor and said, "Who is the one who insulted my senior brother Shuayan? Stand out." All the cultivators looked at the young man with a sword on his back. Some were gloating, and some were sighing. The young man with a sword on his back walked out and said, "I was the one who said it, but I did not insult Shuayan. I was telling the truth. When Mu Xiaoyue was a half-step enlightened being, he really defeated a 2-star enlightened being. I saw it with my own eyes. Shuayan, he really is not Mu Xiaoyue's opponent." The young man with a sword on his back stuttered. His forehead was covered in sweat. Obviously, under the pressure of Lin's powerful aura, the young man with a sword on his back was nervous. Lin stared at the young man with a sword on his back. She squinted her eyes and revealed a terrifying aura. "Where are you from? Which sect?" Chapter 359. The young swordsman was startled and said, "Azure River Region, Eternal River Sect." Hearing the young swordsman's reply, Lin's expression turned cold. Although she was emitting a hot aura, it made people feel a chill. Lin glanced at the black-clothed beauty who'd walked over to her side and said, "A mere disciple of a low-rank first-star sect dares to speak rudely to senior brother Shuayan? Senior brother Shuayan isn't someone you can criticize. Black Widow, teach him a lesson." "No problem, Lin. Ha 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 ha." Black Widow swayed her slender waist, the 2 snow-white hemispheres in front of her chest shaking. She walked towards the young swordsman and said, "Kid, you just insulted my Earth Fiend sect senior brother Sherwinshia. Ha! Tell me, how should I punish you?" The young swordsman was not even 20 years old, but he had the cultivation of an 8-star martial saint. In an inferior 1-star sect, he was definitely a genius among geniuses. However, no matter if it was Lin or Black Widow, they did not put this genius in their eyes. An inferior 1-star sect was not worth mentioning when compared to the Fire Cloud sect and the Earth Fiend sect. Many warriors showed pity in their eyes. This young swordsman could be the most monstrous genius in his sect in the past few hundred years, or even in history. But now, they had angered the disciples of the Fire Cloud Martial School and the Earth Fiend Martial School. If the martial school behind them was a 1-star martial school, perhaps Lin and the Black Widow would give them some face. But for a 1-star martial school, the two of them did not care at all. The young swordsman obviously did not expect that he would get into trouble because of speaking the truth. Although the Black Widow who was walking towards him was very beautiful, and the 2 snow-white hemispheres in front of her chest were very attractive, he did not have the slightest intention of admiring them. Instead, he felt a little scared. The young swordsman could not help but take a step back and said, I was speaking the truth. I did not mean to offend Shuayan and Sherwinshia. If my words made you angry, I will apologize to you. Sorry, I really did not mean to offend you. Sorry. Black Widow walked to the front of the young swordsman and patted his shoulder, saying, Look at how scared you are. Am I so scary? I dote on you. As she spoke, the Black Widow's palm slid down the arm of the sword-carrying young man. The corners of her mouth curled up, and her lips suddenly turned dark purple, revealing a devilish smile. At the same time, the Black Widow's fingernails turned dark purple and suddenly grew by more than an inch. Then, with a smile on her face, the Black Widow grabbed the arm of the sword-carrying youngster. Her 5 black-purple fingernails pierced into the arm of the sword-carrying youngster. "Ah!" The youth with the sword on his back suddenly screamed miserably. His arms suddenly emitted a burst of black gas. The Black Widow was indifferent to the screams of the swordsman. She still had a smile on her face and said, "Scream louder, scream louder. If your voice satisfies me, I will let you go." Looking at the screaming youth with a sword on his back and the smiling Black Widow, all the warriors on the second floor felt a chill in their hearts. Many martial artists shuddered, not daring to look again as their hearts trembled. Killing someone is nothing more than a nod of the head. He only said a few words that made you unhappy. Moreover, it might not have been a lie. The punishment you gave him should be enough. Yixing said as he saw the youth with the sword on his back scream miserably and a black gas appear on his face. He couldn't stand it any longer. Many martial artists looked at Yixing. If he dared to speak out at this time, wouldn't he be inviting trouble? Some martial artists secretly praised him for his courage, and some martial artists coldly snorted, calling him an idiot. The Black Widow looked at Yixing with a smile and said, "Yo. It's a handsome young man. Do you also want me to dote on you?" As her voice fell, the Black Widow flung her hand and the youth with the sword on his back flew in front of Yixing. Bang! The table in front of Yixing was smashed into pieces by the youth with the sword on his back. Wine and dishes spilled all over the floor. Whoosh! A sword light flashed. The arm of the youth with the sword on his back was instantly cut off from his shoulder. Yixing didn't support the youth with the sword on his back. Instead, he took out a spirit weapon treasure sword and instantly slashed out. The arm of the youth with the sword on his back had already turned a deep purplish black. He had been deeply poisoned. Even the body of the youth with the sword on his back had turned black. His entire body began to emit a black gas. His eyes had turned white and he wasn't far from death. Yixing immediately took out a detoxification spirit pill and fed it to the youth with the sword on his back. The youth with the sword on his back had been poisoned in his arm. The Black Widow's poison was extremely potent. If the arm wasn't cut off, Yixing's detoxification spirit pill wouldn't have been able to cure the poison in the youth's body. However, with the arm cut off, the source of the poison was gone. Yixing's detoxification spirit pill immediately showed its effect. The black gas on the youth's face dissipated and his condition improved at a speed visible to the naked eye. The smile on the Black Widow's face disappeared and was replaced by a cold intent. Her eyes were like the eyes of a venomous snake as she stared at Yixing. "You dare to save someone that I, the Black Widow, want to kill?" The Black Widow's voice was bone-chilling and revealed a murderous intent. Yixing was still different from the martial artists of the Star Continent. Among the martial artists present, some were gloating and wouldn't save the youth with the sword on his back. Although some were lamenting in their hearts, they didn't dare to save the youth with the sword on his back. In short, they didn't save him. However, Yixing had to speak up when he saw someone he couldn't stand. When he saw someone on the verge of death, he had to save them. This was his personality as a human from Earth. If he chose to be weak and numb because of that little bit of fear in his heart, this wasn't Yixing's personality. On Earth, Yixing had lived an upright life. On the Star Continent, he was going to live an upright life. Yixing ignored the Black Widow and didn't even look at her. Instead, he sealed a few of the youth's acupoints to speed up his body's absorption of the detoxification elixir and increase the speed of detoxification. "Kid, I'm talking to you." The Black Widow's tone was still cold. "Thank you. You have to be careful." The youth with the sword on his back regained consciousness and said to Yixing. Yixing nodded at the youth with the sword on his back and stood up. He looked at the Black Widow and said, who do you think you are? I, your father, save people if I want to. Do I need your approval? The Black Widow wanted to kill the youth with the sword just because he said something that made the two women unhappy. One could imagine how vicious her heart was. Yi Xing had already angered her by saving the youth with the sword on his back. Even if he apologized to them like the youth with the sword on his back, the Black Widow wouldn't spare him. The result would be the same as the youth with the sword on his back. He would be scratched by the Black Widow's poisonous claws and poisoned to death. Since that was the case, why would Yi Xing have to wrong himself and beg for mercy from her? Naturally, he would do as he wished. Whatever he wanted to say, he would say it without any scruples. However, Yi Xing's words gave the martial artists on the second floor a fright. Although the martial artists couldn't see his cultivation, they could see that he was only 17 or 18 years old. At such an age, how much cultivation could he have? Daring to speak to the Black Widow like that was simply courting death. The Black Widow's eyes revealed a cold light. Her face revealed a demonic smile as she stared at Yi Xing and said, "You dare to speak to sister like that? Do you want to die?" The more she smiled, the more dangerous it became. Her lips began to turn purplish-black and her nails began to change color and grow longer. Yi Xing coldly looked at the Black Widow and said, "If I apologize to you, will you let it go?" The Black Widow said, "You wish." Yi Xing laughed and glanced at the youth with the sword on his back and said, "Then that's it. Your reaction won't stop here. My end will be his end. Why should I be polite to you, you vicious slut?" When the crowd heard Yi Xing's words, they carefully thought about it and realized that it made sense. Not to mention apologizing, even if he begged for mercy, the Black Widow might not spare him. Then, he might as well be unyielding and curse at her. However, the logic was easy to understand. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have dared to follow Yi Xing's example. In their hearts, they still hoped that begging for mercy would allow them to be forgiven. If they were unyielding, they would definitely die. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The Black Widow's lips had completely turned purplish-black and her nails had become purplish-black and long. They emitted a black aura and were clearly poisonous. As her voice fell, the Black Widow threw herself at Yi Xing. Whoosh! Yi Xing's figure flashed. In an instant, he was as fast as a phantom and the Black Widow threw herself at empty air. Paw! At this moment, there was a crisp sound. Yi Xing didn't seem to have left at all and appeared at his original spot. As for the Black Widow, a blood-red handprint appeared on her face as she was sent flying by Yi Xing's slap. "Catch up. I'm finally done catching up. I'll start tomorrow." Seeking recommendation tickets. Chapter 360. 7 Treasures Inn, second floor. The Black Widow was sent flying by Yi Xing's slap, crashing into the tables and chairs on the floor. All the martial artists quickly retreated. At this moment, the second floor was dead silent. All the cultivators looked at Yi Xing in horror. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. They were shocked at Yi Xing's guts. He actually dared to slap an Earth Fiend sect disciple in Nine Heaven City. They were in disbelief because they couldn't believe Yi Xing's strength. He looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old, even younger than the youth with the sword on his back. He was actually able to send a 1-star enlightened master, Black Widow, flying with a slap. When Yi Xing made his move, his aura was exposed. Only then did the martial artist see Yi Xing's cultivation, half-step enlightened master. This made the martial artists even more shocked. A 17 or 18-year-old half-step enlightened master sent a 1-star enlightened master flying with a slap. This was simply another Mu Shaoyue. Furthermore, Yi Xing had used a sword to cut off the youth's arm. This made them mistakenly think that he was Mu Shaoyue. But when they thought about it, they realized that he wasn't. Mu Xiaoyue had already broken through the astral realm and became an enlightened master, while Yi Xing was only a half-step enlightened master. Furthermore, Yi Xing was obviously younger than Mu Xiaoyue. Mu Xiaoyue was already 19 years old, while Yi Xing was still a month away from turning 18. You dare to hit me. You dare to hit me. The Black Widow, who was sent flying, climbed up and touched her burning face as she screamed. At the same time, Yan Lin, who came with her, also released a terrifying aura that locked onto Yi Xing. In terms of looks, Yan Lin, who was wearing a fiery red short skirt that revealed her slender white legs, was even prettier than the Black Widow. However, Yi Xing didn't even look at her. She was the same as the Black Widow, both of them had the heart of a snake and scorpion. For this kind of woman, even if she stood naked in front of him, Yi Xing wouldn't even look at her. At most, he would spit on her. Yi Xing looked at the shrieking Black Widow and said, "That's right. You wanted to kill me, so how could I dare to hit you? I must have been too nervous just now, so my hands and feet didn't listen to me. Come, try again. Let's see if I still dare to hit you." As he spoke, Yi Xing hooked his finger at Black Widow. Yi Xing's mocking words made the martial artist smile involuntarily. Whether it was his hands or his mouth, this young man was merciless. The Black Widow looked at Yi Xing furiously. Her snow-white breasts heaved up and down violently. However, she did not have the courage to continue attacking Yi Xing. "You will pay the price." Black Widow's face twisted as she cursed Yi Xing. Yan Lin walked towards Yi Xing and said, "Brat, how dare you? What's your name? Where are you from? Which sect are you from?" Yi Xing looked at Yan Lin and said, "It's none of your business." Yan Lin's face turned green as she asked, "Do you know who I am?" Yi Xing said, "I don't know, and I'm not interested to know." Yan Lin snorted and said, "My name is Yan Lin, a disciple of the Fire Cloud sect. I'm 22 years old, and I'm at the peak of the first level of the astral realm. I'm ranked 13th on the Earth Profound ranking. The top 10 of the Earth Profound ranking were all enlightened masters at the second level of the astral realm. Yan Lin was ranked 13th on the Earth Profound ranking, which meant that her strength was definitely at the top among the one-star enlightened masters. Even if she wasn't at the peak of the first level of the astral realm, her strength was still first-rate among the one-star enlightened masters. Although the Black Widow was once in the top 20 of the Earth Profound ranking, she was only ranked 19th at the highest. Yan Lin was only 22 years old. She still had 2 years to rush up to the Earth Profound ranking. When she became a 2-star enlightened master, she would even rush into the top 10 of the Earth Profound ranking. Compared to her, the Black Widow was not on the same level. Yan Lin reported her identity, cultivation, and ranking on the Earth Profound ranking, which shocked all the martial artists present. After all, not many martial artists knew Yan Lin. Most of them had only heard of Yan Lin's reputation. The true Xian domain was very vast, and there were many martial artists. Very few had seen Yan Lin before. The Fire Cloud cult was one of the 9 great sects. As a disciple of one of the 9 great sects, Yan Lin was also ranked 13th on the Earth Profound ranking. She was an elite among the younger generation of the true Xian domain. When the martial artists found out about her identity, how could they not be shocked? However, Yi Xing was indifferent towards Yan Lin's identity. Not to mention Yan Lin, even a 2-star enlightened master on the Earth Profound ranking would find it hard to enter Yi Xing's eyes. The only ones that could be valued by Yi Xing were the 3 3-star enlightened masters and Mu Xiaoyue. In addition, Shi Wenxia could also be considered half of them. Yi Xing looked at Yan Lin with a normal expression and said, 22 years old, and a 1-star enlightened master. You're only ranked 13th on the Earth Profound ranking. What is there to be proud of? Is it that great? If these words came out of someone else's mouth, it might be arrogant. However, when it came out of Yixing's mouth, no one felt that it was inappropriate. A 17 or 18-year-old half-step enlightened master had sent a 1-star enlightened master flying with a slap. This kind of genius was not inferior to Mu Xiaoyue. Mu Xiaoyue was known as the most monstrous genius in the true Xian domain in the past 1,000 years. Yixing was not inferior to Mu Xiaoyue, so naturally, it was the same. Then, Yan Lin, who was ranked 13th on the Earth Profound ranking, was not worth mentioning in front of Yixing. The other martial artists thought so, but not Yan Lin. Yixing's words made her furious. Yan Lin shouted, "Even Mu Xiaoyue did not dare to speak to me like this when he was a half-step enlightened master. If you want to be arrogant in front of me, you should at least wait until you become a Star Realm enlightened master. Now, you have to kneel." Whoosh! As she spoke, Yan Lin's entire body emitted a layer of illusory flames. A scorching gust of wind instantly blew. Yan Lin's palm struck towards Yixing upper-grade martial art, raging flame palm. Yan Lin's palm struck out. The flaming star energy condensed into a flaming palm print. In an instant, it arrived in front of Yixing. She used her full strength and showed no mercy. The space on the second floor of the inn was limited. Yan Lin's full strength attack arrived in an instant, making it difficult for Yixing to display his speed. Yixing used his speed to send the Black Widow flying with a slap. This was an unexpected effect. Yan Lin came prepared. Yixing naturally would not use the same trick. He did not want to dodge, so he immediately used the flaming star fist. "Get out of my way." At the same time Yixing punched out, he shouted. The flaming star fist instantly collided with the flaming star palm. Boom! With a loud explosion, the flame astral star splashed in all directions, and the hot airflow instantly surged in all directions. In an instant, it densely covered the entire second floor of the inn. Everyone felt a wave of hot airflow, and their complexions changed. Along with the scorching air wave, Yan Lin's body was also dispersed. Her strength was not on the same level as Yixing's. She was sent flying by Yixing's punch. Yan Lin flew dozens of meters and crashed into the wall on the other side. She also fell to the ground. In the Seven Treasures Inn, there were martial artists coming in and out. Fighting was a relatively common occurrence. Therefore, the inn was built extremely sturdy. The walls were reinforced with formations and were not damaged by Yan Lin. Puff! Yan Lin fell to the ground and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. In just one move, she was injured by Yixing. The martial artists looked at Yixing with incomparable shock. Yan Lin was a 1-star perfected person, but she was injured by Yixing in one move. This strength was too unbelievable. Even when Mu Xiaoyue was a half-step perfected person, he had defeated many 1-star perfected person. However, in the circulating battle records, there was no record of him defeating a 1-star perfected person in one move. Yan Lin's strength was at least first class among the 1-star perfected person. If Yixing could defeat her in one move, wouldn't he be able to contend with a 2-star perfected person? A half-step perfected person contending with a 2-star perfected person. If they did not see it with their own eyes, the martial artists present would not even dare to think about it. None of the martial artists present knew Yixing regarding Yixing's identity. Everyone was extremely curious. Some people secretly guessed, he's so young and has the cultivation of a half-step perfected person. His strength is also so terrifying. I don't even know Yan Lin and the Black Widow. He shouldn't be a disciple of the 9 upper sects. Could he be a genius disciple of a 2-star sect? Although there were no 2-star sects in the true Xian territory and there were very few genius disciples of 2-star sects here, this seemed to be the only explanation. If one were to say that a 1-star sect or an inferior 1-star sect in a certain area, there would be a monstrous genius that was even more powerful than Mu Xiaoyue, none of the martial artists present would believe it. Yan Lin crawled up, and there was a hint of suspicion in her eyes. She also had some doubts about Yixing's identity. It seemed that she had to investigate it thoroughly. "Let's go." Yan Lin gave the Black Widow a look. The two of them did not dare to stay and quickly left. Chapter 361. Oh my God. A half-step enlightened being defeated Yan Lin, who is ranked 13th on the Earth Profound list, in one move. This battle power is too heaven-defying. Even Mu Xiaoyue couldn't defeat Yan Lin in one move when he was a half-step enlightened being. Even defeating Yan Lin would be difficult. Do you guys think he's a disciple of some sect in the True Xian domain? If so, then the number one genius of the True Xian domain in the past 1,000 years might not be Mu Xiaoyue. Definitely not. Mu Xiaoyue's parents are both high-level astral realm esteemed beings. Moreover, his ancestors have been esteemed beings for several generations. He has an excellent bloodline inheritance, an 8-star yellow fate, and an extremely strong martial talent. This is why he is the number one genius of the True Xian domain in the past 1,000 years. Other than the 9 great sects, how could any other sect have such a heaven-defying genius? Then, he should be a genius disciple of some 2-star sect. No wonder he didn't put Yan Lin and the Black Widow in his eyes. Yeah. A 2-star sect is extremely powerful. With supremacies in charge, even the 9 superior sects combined would not be able to compete with a 2-star sect. The Earth Fiend sect is even weaker. If he is from a 2-star sect, the ones who would be in trouble would be Yan Lin and Black Widow. He's so young and has the cultivation of a half-step enlightened being. He also has such terrifying battle power. I'm afraid he's very outstanding in a 2-star sect. Could he be a disciple of a honorable? Hiss. A disciple of a honorable. That's too scary. If a honorable is angry, he can easily destroy a 1-star sect. The martial artists discussed animatedly. They didn't believe that an ordinary sect in the True Xian domain could produce a genius that was even better than Mu Xiaoyue. They all thought that Yixing was a genius disciple from a 2-star sect. A 2-star sect had an honorable. It was on a completely different level from a 1-star sect. Moreover, the difference between the two was much greater than the difference in strength between the 2-star sects. With the strength of a honorable, it was easy to destroy a 1-star sect. It was like an enlightened being destroying a martial saint's force. Thinking of this, all the martial artists looked at Yixing, their gazes filled with awe. Yixing glanced at the warriors on the second floor indifferently. All the warriors were startled. They were so scared that they immediately looked away, not daring to look at Yixing again. Even the astral realm sages were no exception. Yixing turned around and walked towards the young swordsman. "How are you?" The sword-bearing youth immediately bowed to Yixing to express his gratitude and said, "Yixing thanks young master for saving my life. I'm fine now, but..." Looking at the broken arm beside him, Jian Wushuang sighed. His arm was crippled. Unless he could find a spirit pill that could regenerate broken limbs in the future, he would be left with only one arm for the rest of his life. Yixing glanced at Jian Wukong's empty right arm and said, "It seems like you only know how to use the sword with your right hand." Jian Wushuang nodded and said, "Without my right arm, my sword skills are crippled. However, I won't give up. Without my right arm, I can still practice the sword with my left hand. I will definitely take revenge for what happened today." Yixing said, "The Earth Fiend sect is not to be trifled with. You should avoid them for now and leave 9 Heaven City first." Jian Wushuang nodded and said, "I'm here to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. With my right arm crippled, I no longer have the strength to participate. I will leave now. May I know young master's name and where you are from?" Jian Wushuang will remember today's kindness and will definitely repay it in the future. Yixing smiled and said, "My name is Yixing. I come from a very distant place. You don't need to know. If you want to repay me, we'll talk about it when we meet again in the future. You can leave now." Since others mistakenly thought that he was a disciple of a two-star sect, Yixing would naturally use this identity to shock the Fire Cloud cult and the Earth Fiend sect. Naturally, he wouldn't expose his origins to avoid being harassed by the Fire Cloud cult and the Earth Fiend sect. "Young Master Yi, what I said is true. When Mu Xiaoyue was a half-step sage, he really defeated a two-star sage. Moreover, he was a late-stage two-star sage. Mu Xiaoyue's strength is much stronger than the rumors say." Jian Wushuang transmitted his voice to Yixing with celestial essence. He then bowed slightly again and said, "Young Master Yi, farewell." After Jian Wushuang left, Yixing also left the second floor of the inn and went to room 707 on the 7th floor. He would be staying there for a month. As for the broken tables and chairs on the second floor, the inn could only blame it on their bad luck. They wouldn't ask Yixing for them, nor would they dare to go to the Fire Cloud cult and the Earth Fiend sect to ask Yanlin and the Black Widow for them. Compared to the profits of the 7 Treasures Inn, the value of those tables and chairs was not worth mentioning. There was no need to ask for them. After Yixing left, the inn quickly arranged for the coachman to take away the broken tables and chairs. The floor was cleaned up and replaced with new tables and chairs. The guests who came later could only learn from the discussions of other cultivators that such a violent incident had happened here. Yanlin and the Black Widow couldn't find out Yixing's identity for the time being. Both of them were afraid of Yixing and didn't dare to cause trouble for him for the time being. Yixing stayed at the 7 Treasures Inn leisurely. The next day, Yixing left the inn and went to the bookstore to buy some books. They were all books that introduced the geography of the Star Continent. They mainly introduced the Middle Sky Continent and the East Divine Continent. Most importantly, they introduced the True Xian region. Yixing's reading speed was very fast. After flipping through the pages, he scanned them all into his super brain. Yixing finally had a certain understanding of the Star Continent. The realms of cultivators were divided into the Star Tempering Realm, Star Vortex Realm, Star Dipper Realm, Astral Reaching Realm, and Star Sea Realm. They were called ordinary cultivators, Star Marquis, Sage, Venerable, and King. Among them, high-level Star Marquis was called King Marquis, high-level Sage was called Sage, and high-level Venerable was called Lord. There was no introduction to high-level kings. There were no high-level kings in the Star Continent. The strongest were only mid-level kings, and there was only one in thousands of years. The founder of the Great Yuan dynasty was a mid-level king at the 4th level of the Star Vortex realm. He was also a 4-star king. Since the establishment of the Great Yuan dynasty 10,000 years ago, only 4 4-star kings had appeared. They were the founder, one appeared 8,000 years ago, one appeared 2,000 years ago, and one appeared 300 years ago. The 4-star king that appeared 300 years ago was the current supreme king of the Great Yuan dynasty. His surname was Meng, and his name was Tai. Every time the supreme king of the Great Yuan dynasty became a 4-star king, the Great Yuan dynasty would enter a golden age, and geniuses would appear in large numbers. Currently, the Great Yuan dynasty was in a golden age. Venerables were as common as clouds, and even kings were numerous. Even sages were everywhere. Comparing the 9 sect alliances of the True Xian region to the Great Yuan dynasty was like comparing the Purple Mountain County to the 9 Heaven City. The strongest in the Purple Mountain County were martial saints, and there weren't many of them. However, the 9 Heaven City was filled with martial saints. The strongest in the 9 sect alliances were sages, and the Great Yuan dynasty was filled with sages. Because the Spirit Moon sect had been destroyed by the Great Yuan dynasty, Yixing didn't have a good impression of the Great Yuan dynasty. However, when Yixing understood the strength of the Great Yuan dynasty, he couldn't help but be shocked by the strength of the Great Yuan dynasty. After reading the books, Yixing also had a better understanding of the East Divine Continent. The 72 lower regions were divided into many different countries. However, each of the 36 upper regions had a country. They were all two-star empires, and each two-star empire had a two-star sect behind them. Among the 36 two-star empires, there were 3 upper-rank empires, 9 middle-rank empires, and 24 lower-rank empires. Yixing was most concerned about the news of the True Xian region. Originally, he didn't even know about the 9 great sects of the True Xian region, but now, he finally knew. The 9 great sects were Big Dipper sect, Boundless sect, White Bone sect, Fire Cloud sect, Spiritual Snake sect, Red Cloud sect, Flying Rainbow sect, Flowing Wind sect, and Golden Sword sect. Among them, Big Dipper sect, Boundless sect, and White Bone sect were the strongest. The other 6 sects were slightly weaker. However, the Fire Cloud sect was one of the strongest among the 6 sects and could be ranked as the 4th strongest sect. Other than the 9 great sects, there were also a few top 1-star middle-rank sects that were not to be underestimated. For example, 9 Heaven Cities Earth Fiend sect, Azure River District's Azure Sun sect, Jiang District Xiantian sect, Liaoyue District Spiritual Heart sect, Kun'an District's Cloud Ocean sect, Fengchang District's Evil Shadow sect, and so on. These sects all had at least 2 6-star perfected persons. The strongest Sun Moon sect and Azure Thunder sect in the Azure Cloud District only had 1 6-star perfected persons. They couldn't be compared at all. In the blink of an eye, Yixing had been in 9 Heaven City for 10 days. Today, he left the 7 treasures inn again and headed to the east side of the city with the silver-winged demonic eagle. Yixing heard that there were going to be a few auctions in the east side of the city today. He had plenty of star crystals on him, so he went to take a look. Today's news ban. I really want to update 3 times, but my head hurts. I can only update 2 times. I'll work hard tomorrow. Taking advantage of the news ban, I'll ask my brothers and sisters for free recommendation tickets on Monday. Chapter 362. 9 Heaven City was very big. Just the East District alone stretched for 700 miles and there were many auction houses. 3 of the auction houses were the most famous. They were the Big Dipper Auction House, the Immeasurable Auction House, and the White Bones Auction House. From their names, one could tell that these 3 auction houses belonged to the Big Dipper sect, the Immeasurable sect, and the White Bones sect. The Big Dipper sect, the Immeasurable sect, and the White Bones sect were the 3 strongest sects among the 9 great sects. Their auction houses were the safest in the True Xian region. Naturally, they were the most famous. Senior brother, it's him. He's the one who injured me on the 2nd floor of the 7 Treasures Inn. He even slapped the Black Widow. On the street outside the Big Dipper auction house, the Fire Cloud sect disciple Yan Lin stood beside a young man in a red robe and pointed at Yixing's back. That day, after Yan Lin and the Black Widow left, they did not disturb Yixing again. However, they had been secretly investigating Yixing's identity. However, no one in 9 Heaven City knew Yixing. Therefore, Yixing's identity had never been discovered. Yan Lin and the Black Widow suspected that Yixing was a disciple of a 2-star sect. Without investigating Yixing's identity, they naturally did not dare to find trouble with Yixing. Today, the Big Dipper auction house was going to auction a high-grade spirit pill that could strengthen one's body, the body-strengthening pill. Although martial artists rarely cultivated their physical strength after becoming martial saints, no one would dislike having a stronger physical strength. Therefore, many perfected persons had come to the Big Dipper auction house today for the body-strengthening pill. Shui Yan and Yan Lin had also come for the body-strengthening pill. However, they had bumped into Yixing. Beside Yixing was a silver-winged demonic eagle that was more than 3 feet tall. It was very eye-catching as it walked on the street. Yan Lin had noticed Yixing from afar. Shui Yan followed Yan Lin's gesture and glanced at Yixing. Then, his gaze landed on the silver-winged demonic eagle beside Yixing. Shui Yan said, "The silver-winged demonic condor can reach level 3 when it reaches adulthood. Its strength is equivalent to a 1-star sage to a 6-star sage. His pet beast is not bad. I wonder if it has reached adulthood." Yan Lin said, "I didn't see this silver-winged devil condor that day, but this guy's strength is very strong. He can injure me in one move. He should be able to fight with an ordinary 2-star sage." Shui Yan's gaze revealed a trace of seriousness. He was ranked 4th on the Earth Profound ranking and was an elite among the elites of the younger generation of the true Profound domain. However, compared to Yixing, he clearly paled in comparison. Shui Yan said, "Let's go. Let's go meet him." The two of them quickly moved forward and soon caught up with Yixing. "Hey, brother." Shui Yan took a few steps forward and stood in front of Yixing. He said, "I'm Fire Cloud's sex disciple, Shui Yan. Back at the 7 Treasures Inn, my junior sister was a little rash and offended you. Please forgive her." With regards to Yixing's identity, Shui Yan also suspected that he was a 2-star sex disciple, so he was very polite. Ranked 4th on the Earth Profound ranking, he was definitely famous in the true Profound domain. When Shui Yan reported his identity, many nearby warriors were shocked and looked at Shui Yan. They were even more surprised by Yixing's identity. He was young and had a silver-winged devil condor by his side, but Shui Yan was actually so polite to him. "I'm Yixing." Since the other party was polite, Yixing also faced him coldly and said, "I accidentally injured your sex disciple that day. I hope she won't bear a grudge." Shui Yan chuckled and said, "You're too kind. Junior sister Yan told me that it was because the Black Widow was too vicious that caused young Master Yi to speak up for her. This is a chivalrous act. Junior sister Yan definitely doesn't bear a grudge against young Master Yi." Yan Lin observed Yixing's expression from the side. She saw that Yixing was very calm and his eyes were as calm as an ancient well. He didn't feel any pressure because of Shui Yan. She was even more convinced that Yixing had an extraordinary background. Yan Lin said, "Young Master Yi is a peerless genius with heaven-defying strength. How would Yan Lin dare to bear a grudge? As long as young Master Yi isn't angry with Yan Lin, it's fine." Many warriors heard the conversation between the three and became even more curious about Yixing's identity. Fire Cloud's sex Shui Yan and Yan Lin were both outstanding figures among the younger generation of the true Profound domain, but they were actually so polite to this young Master Yi. Especially Yan Lin, her tone was even flattering. What was the identity of this young Master Yi that made the two of them be so polite and respectful? The outstanding figures among the younger generation of the true Profound domain were all on the Earth Profound ranking, but there didn't seem to be anyone named Young Master Yi on the Earth Profound ranking. Yixing sneered in his heart. This silly woman really thought he was a 2-star sex disciple. He still remembered how arrogant she was on the 2nd floor of the 7 Treasures Inn. Hee. I'm not angry. Yixing chuckled and continued walking towards the Big Dipper auction house. As he walked, he said, "The two of you are also here to participate in the auction, right?" Shui Yan and Yan Lin followed and walked side by side with Yixing. Shui Yan said, "That's right. I heard that there will be a body-refining high-grade spirit pill, body-strengthening pill, being auctioned at this auction. We're here to try our luck." "Young Master Yi, let's go in together." After walking a few steps, Shui Yan said again, "Young Master Yi is so young and has already reached the cultivation of a half-step perfected person. Furthermore, you have heaven-defying combat strength. I wonder which sect you are from and which senior's disciple are you?" Although Shui Yan believed that Yixing was a two-star sex disciple, he wasn't completely sure. Naturally, he had to clarify things. Yixing knew that the reason why Shui Yan and Yan Lin were so polite to him was because they suspected that he had a great background. If they knew that he was a disciple of a one-star sect in the Qingyun region, they would probably turn hostile immediately. Yixing smiled and said, "I come from a faraway place. Even if I told you, Brother Shui wouldn't know." Ha! But it won't be long before Brother Shui understands. Yixing was going to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. At that time, his identity would naturally be exposed. Shui Yan naturally didn't know that Yixing was referring to the Young Hero Assembly that would take place in half a month. Shui Yan couldn't ask about Yixing's background, so he could only feel resentful. The three of them quickly arrived at the Big Dipper auction house. Suddenly, Yixing's expression turned cold and he stopped walking. Yixing's gaze shot towards the four martial artists not far away. His eyes revealed a sharp aura. Of the four martial artists, 2 were perfected person and 2 were martial saints. Yixing knew them all. The 2 perfected person were both elders of the Holy Wind sect. One was a 1-star perfected person, Fang Qing, and the other was a 2-star perfected person, Feng Yuhan. The 2 of them were in the Qingyun mountain range and had participated in the killing of the Falling Star sect's team. The 2 martial saints were Feng Yu and Fang Zhe. Yixing had met the 2 of them in the Qingyun ancient land. Now, Feng Yu's cultivation had broken through to the 8-star martial saint realm and Fang Zhe had become a 7-star martial saint. The 2 perfected person elders of the Holy Wind sect had brought their 2 most outstanding juniors to the Nine Heaven City to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. The Nine Heaven City was huge. It had a radius of 1,000 miles and a population of more than 100 million. The probability of Yixing meeting martial artists from the Qingyun region in the Nine Heaven City was extremely low. However, because Yixing and the 4 martial artists of the Holy Wind sect had come to participate in the Big Dipper auction house's auction, they had unexpectedly bumped into each other. Shui Yan noticed Yixing's gaze and looked towards Fang Qing, Feng Yuhan, Feng Yu, and Fang Zhe. His eyes turned slightly and said, "Young Master Yi, do you know the 4 martial artists?" Fang Qing and Feng Yuhan were already middle-aged. They were only 1-star and 2-star perfected persons. Feng Yu and Fang Zhe were young, but they were not even 9-star martial saints. The 4 of them were obviously not worthy of Shui Yan's attention. With Yixing's talent, Shui Yan naturally believed that he could be a 2-star sect disciple from another region. However, in Shui Yan's opinion, Fang Qing and the other 3 martial artists were definitely not from another region. Every region was extremely vast. It had a radius of more than 1,000,000 miles, or even a few million miles. There was no reason for the 1-star and 2-star perfected person elders to bring 2 7-star and 8-star martial saint juniors to another region. This was an extremely dangerous act. If the 4 martial artists were martial artists from the true Xian region, then Yixing knew them. Didn't that mean that Yixing was likely to be a martial artist from the true Xian region? At this moment, Shui Yan and Yan Lin could not help but have this suspicion in their hearts. As soon as Shui Yan finished speaking, Fang Qing, Feng Yuhan, Feng Yu, and Fang Zhe felt Yixing and Shui Yan's gazes and turned their heads to look over. When Feng Yu and Fang Zhe saw Yixing, they immediately exclaimed, "Yixing! You are actually not dead yet." As for Fang Qing and Feng Yuhan, after the initial shock, their eyes lit up. Yixing was a huge treasure trove. Since he was not dead and had even come to the Nine Heaven City, wouldn't that mean that he had delivered a treasure to them? Today's outbreak, on Monday, please recommend me. Chapter 363. When the 4 of them saw Yixing, they quickly walked over. Feng Yuhan was a 2-star sage, and the 4 of them obviously followed his lead. He stopped in front of Yixing and said, "Little bastard, the Flying Clouds sect was right. You really didn't die." Feng Qing sneered, "He, you're really good at running. You actually came to Nine Heavens City. However, even if you run to the ends of the earth, you can't escape from us." While speaking, Feng Qing clenched his fist as if he had caught Yixing in the palm of his hand. Feng Yu and Feng Zhe had been slapped by Yixing in the Qingyun ancient land. The two of them hated and feared Yixing. Now that the Falling Star sect had been destroyed and Yixing was being chased by several sects, they no longer feared Yixing, only hatred. The two of them looked at Yixing with gloating expressions. Feng Yu sneered, "Yixing, aren't you awesome? Aren't you the #1 genius in the Qingyun region? Now you've become a stray dog. Let's see how you're going to be awesome. Since you've met the elders of my Divine Wind sect, today will be the day you die. Before you die, I'll return the humiliation you've given me 10 times over." Yixing stared coldly at the 4 people of the Divine Wind sect with murderous intent hidden in his eyes. If it weren't for the Heavenly Stars auction house prohibiting fighting, Yixing would have let the silver-winged demonic eagle attack and tear the 4 people of the Divine Wind sect to pieces. Yixing, the #1 genius in the Qingyun region. Shui Yan heard the words of the 4 people of the Divine Wind sect and looked at Yixing with a 180-degree change. His expression turned cold. Yan Lin, who was beside him, was livid and her eyes were burning with anger. They thought that he was a disciple of a 2-star sect, but in the end, he was a martial artist from the Clear Sky District. The Clear Sky District was only a very ordinary remote district among the 27 districts of the true mystic domain. It was ranked below the 20th place. A junior martial artist from Clear Sky Earthly Cloud had been treated as a disciple of a 2-star sect. When they had spoken, they had even tried to curry favor with Yixing. Now that they knew the truth, how could Shui Yan and Yan Lin not be angry? Yixing saw the changes in Shui Yan and Yan Lin, but he only glanced at them indifferently, and his gaze continued to fall on the 4 people of Divine Wind sect. Between Yixing, Shui Yan and Yan Lin, there was not much enmity. However, with the Divine Wind sect, there was an enmity of annihilation. In particular, Feng Yuhan and Feng Qing had participated in the assassination of the Falling Star sect's team. The deaths of sect master Lu Tianyuan and War Pavilion elder Qi Doxing were directly related to the 2 of them. When Yixing saw the 2 of them, he couldn't wait to kill them on the spot. "You want my life? When the auction is over, I will wait for you outside the auction house." Yixing coldly glanced at the 4 martial artists of Divine Wind sect, and then walked towards the auction hall. Feng Yuhan and Feng Qing looked at each other, and there was surprise in their eyes. Yixing dared to ask them to meet outside the auction house after the auction. The 2 of them couldn't believe it. In their opinion, Yixing would seize any opportunity to escape. Feng Qing transmitted his voice to Feng Yuhan, "This kid's escaping skills are top-notch. He may want to paralyze us. Maybe he will escape before the auction is over. We have to keep an eye on him." Feng Yuhan nodded, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He looked at Yixing's back and said, "Kid, let's see what tricks you can play." Shui Yan also looked at Yixing's back and shouted, "Stop." Yixing stopped, but he didn't turn around and said, "What's the matter?" Shui Yan's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of Yixing. There was a sneer on his face, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared coldly at Yixing. Shui Yan said coldly, "Good kid, you've been pretending all along the way." Yixing said, "I'm me, who am I pretending to be?" Shui Yan said, "You know it in your heart." Yixing said, "I'm just a junior martial artist from a faraway place. I don't have any backing in Nine Heavens City, but I'm upright and upright. Who do I need to pretend to be?" Shui Yan's face was ashen. Yixing indeed only said that he came from a faraway place. He never said that he was a disciple of a two-star sect. The reason why Shui Yan and Yan Lin thought so was all their own guesses. Qingyun region was nearly 1,000,000 miles away from Nine Heaven City. Wasn't it a very far place? Yixing was right. Shui Yan would only be asking for a rebuff if Yixing was pretending. He skipped the topic and said, Yixing. You hurt my junior martial sister at the Seven Treasures Inn, how dare you? We have to settle this properly, we can't just let it go like this. Yixing looked at Shui Yan with a faint smile and said, Didn't you say that your junior martial sister was a little impulsive and offended me, and you want me to forgive her? I won't lower myself to the same level as a woman. I've already forgiven her. What other problems do you have? Bullsh *T. Yan Lin walked up, her eyes filled with anger and said, A disciple from a trash sect dares to say that he forgives me? I'm not done with you for the Seven Treasures Inn. Shui Yan looked coldly at Yixing and said, Kneel down and kowtow to junior martial sister Yan 3 times, and I'll spare your life. Yixing glanced at Shui Yan indifferently and said, Shui Yan, you think too highly of yourself. If you want to stand up for your junior martial sister, you'll have plenty of chances at the Young Hero Assembly. If you can't wait, I'll wait outside the auction house after the auction. You can come too. After saying that, Yixing continued to walk into the auction house. Shui Yan patted Yan Lin's shoulder and glanced at the 4 people from the Divine Wind sect. Junior martial sister Yan, don't worry. After the auction, as long as he's still alive, I'll make him kneel in front of you and beg for mercy. Yan Lin clenched her fists and said with a fierce look, I'll make him suffer a fate worse than death. Not far away, Fang Qing sent a sound transmission to Feng Yuhan. It seems that Yixing has offended someone in the Nine Heaven City. We can't let others beat us to it. We have to be the first to kill him and get his storage ring. Feng Yuhan nodded and said, Let's go. We'll keep an eye on him. He's not a real person, so he's not qualified to enter the VIP room. He can't escape from us. Young master, demonic beasts are not allowed to be sold in the auction house. Please leave them in the demonic beast area. Yixing was stopped by a noble servant at the entrance of the Big Dipper auction house. Yixing nodded and left the silver-winged demonic eagle in the demonic beast area. Then he entered the auction house. In the Big Dipper auction house, only martial artists from the 9 upper sects or real people in the astral realm were qualified to enter the VIP room. Marquises who were not from the 9 upper sects could only enter the VIP room if they followed a real person. Marquises who were alone could not buy a VIP room even if they were rich. They could only stay in the auction house. The Big Dipper auction house had a large indoor area, which was equivalent to a football field. There were tens of thousands of seats inside. The first floor was the hall, and the second floor was the VIP room. Yixing was not qualified to go to the VIP room, so he bought a seat in the hall that was not too front. In order to keep an eye on Yixing, the 4 people from the Divine Wind sect did not go to the VIP room. Instead, they sat down not far from Yixing. The known treasures on Yixing were a high-grade flying spiritual tool, 2 high-grade spiritual weapons, and a mid-grade storage ring. These treasures were extremely rare even in the 9 Heaven City's auction house. After a few auctions, there might not even be one of these treasures. Therefore, the 4 people from the Divine Wind sect did not care about what was going to be auctioned. They only wanted to keep an eye on Yixing. When Yixing left the Big Dipper auction house, they would kill Yixing and obtain Yixing's storage ring. That would be the biggest gain. Shui Yan and Yan Lin were disciples of the 9 upper sections. They were also real people in the astral realm. Naturally, they bought a VIP room. The VIP room they chose was not far from Yixing. Standing at the window of the VIP room, they could see Yixing clearly. Shui Yan and Yan Lin were the same as the 4 people from the Divine Wind sect. They were also paying attention to Yixing to prevent Yixing from slipping away during the auction. In fact, it was not only Shui Yan and Yan Lin who were paying attention to Yixing in the VIP room. In another VIP room, there was also a young man and a young woman who were paying attention to Yixing. The woman was wearing a tight black robe and was nestled in the man's arms. There was a vertical crack on her chest, revealing 2 snow-white hemispheres. The man stretched out a big hand and stroked the snow-white hemispheres. His eyes were coldly staring at Yixing, who was in the hall on the first floor. There was a third update at midnight. Chapter 364. This brat is just a country bumpkin from the Qingyun region. I thought he was the 6th disciple of the 2-star sect who came to the true Xian region to watch the young hero assembly. The Black Widow stared coldly at Yixing. At the same time, she gently twisted her body in Shi Wenxia's embrace, purposely moving her exposed breasts closer to Shi Wenxia's hand. "Senior brother, you have to seek justice for me." I was slapped by him and became the joke of the 9 Heavens city. Shi Wenxia was younger than the Black Widow. He was only 22 years old this year. However, the disciples of the sect were ranked by strength. Shi Wenxia was already a 2-star enlightened master, and his strength was unrivaled in the same realm. Naturally, he was the senior brother. Yixing was seen by Shui Yan and Yan Lin outside the Big Dipper auction house. In fact, he was also seen by Shi Wenxia and the Black Widow who came to the Big Dipper auction house. However, Shui Yan and Yan Lin went up to Yixing to get close to him, while Shi Wenxia and the Black Widow just watched from afar. Shui Yan, ranked 4th on the Earth Profound ranking, peak level 2 Astral Realm, Fire Cloud Sect disciple. Shi Wenxia, ranked 10th on the Earth Profound ranking, had unrivaled battle strength, Earth Fiend Sect disciple. Now that Shi Wenxia's cultivation had broken through to Astral Realm level 2, Shui Yan, a peak 2-star enlightened master, was most likely not his opponent. However, Shui Yan was a Fire Cloud Sect disciple. If the two met, Shui Yan's position would definitely be higher than Shi Wenxia's. Shi Wenxia believed that he was stronger than Shui Yan in every aspect. How could he be willing to be suppressed by Shui Yan? Naturally, he wanted to avoid meeting Shui Yan, so he just watched from afar. The 4 warriors of the Divine Wind sect recognized Yixing, and Yixing's identity was exposed. Shi Wenxia and the Black Widow saw all of this. Originally, the Black Widow also suspected that Yixing might be a disciple of a 2-star sect, so she endured and didn't take revenge. Now that she knew that Yixing was just a junior from the Qingyun region, how could she let him go? However, the Black Widow was not a match for Yixing. If she wanted to deal with Yixing, she could only rely on her senior apprentice brother, Shi Wenxia. Shi Wenxia's hand, which was gently caressing her, suddenly exerted force. He squeezed into the Black Widow's clothes through the tear and grabbed one of her snowy peaks, kneading it forcefully. As Shi Wenxia kneaded, he said fiercely, "Little slut, don't worry. He won't be able to escape from my palms." Under Shi Wenxia's kneading, the Black Widow's body went limp and she started moaning. Shi Wenxia kneaded the Black Widow for a while before releasing it. He then boldly sat down on the luxurious leather chair at the side. He was tall and his muscles were like dragons. He looked like a human-shaped machine. Even if he was sitting down, he was almost as tall as Black Widow when she was standing. There's nothing good in today's auction. Only the body-strengthening pellet can catch my eye, and the body-strengthening pellet will definitely be the last item to be auctioned. I'm very free in the early stages of the auction. As he spoke, Evil General Shi Wen spread his legs and said, "Little slut, come over here and give me a blowjob." When Yixing entered the auction hall, there were already many people seated inside. Moreover, there was an endless stream of people coming in. Not long after, the auction hall, which could hold tens of thousands of people, was full. Although most of them were noble star marquises, there were also quite a number of astral realm enlightened persons. There were at least 1,000 of them. This didn't include those in the VIP rooms. Compared to the Qingyun region, the total number of enlightened persons in the southern and northern sects was only 200 to 300. More than 1,000 astral realm enlightened persons was a huge number. And this was only the number of enlightened persons that the auction had attracted. The number of enlightened persons in Nine Heavens City was far more than this. From this, it could be seen that the Qingyun region was indeed very backward in the true Xian domain. It couldn't even be compared to Nine Heavens City. When the auction hall was full, an extremely voluptuous enlightened person walked out from behind the auction stage. This enlightened person not only had a voluptuous figure, but she was also very tall. She was wearing a tight-fitting silk dress that perfectly outlined her figure. The dress had a slit that extended all the way to her buttocks, revealing her 2 slender legs. It looked very seductive and pleasing to the eye. More than 80% of the martial artists that came to participate in the auction were old masters. When their gazes landed on this enlightened person, their eyes lit up with excitement. One could imagine that this enlightened person didn't even need to stir up the atmosphere. Just by standing on the stage, it was enough to keep the entire auction in an intense state. The enlightened person clearly wasn't just standing on the stage. She first bowed to the crowd. When she bowed, the 2 snow-white lumps in front of her chest surged violently, as if they were about to burst out. Yixing immediately heard the sound of countless saliva being swallowed. The enlightened person clearly controlled her movements very precisely. When the 2 lumps in front of her chest were about to pop out, she had already stood up. Although her chest was still trembling, there was no possibility of it popping out. This made many martial artists feel that it was a pity. After the enlightened person bowed, she revealed a sweet smile and said, "Tiangang Auction Hall's number 7 auctioneer, Bicky, at your service. Today's auction has a total of 72 items. The first item is a set of mid-grade star crystals. There are 1,000 of them. The starting price is 50,000 low-grade star crystals. Auction officials, please make your bids. 50,000, 55,000. 60,000. 97,000, 100,000. As soon as Bicky's voice fell, the voices of people bidding rose one after another. Soon, the price rose to 100,000 low-grade star crystals. Yixing looked at the crowd and was a little surprised. He had always thought that mid-grade star crystals were the same as low-grade star crystals. He didn't expect that mid-grade star crystals could be auctioned as an item. Moreover, there were many people bidding. Most of the bidders were enlightened persons in the astral realm. Normally, only enlightened persons could use mid-grade star crystals. Other than enlightened persons, only level 3 array masters could use them. Yixing knew that the exchange rate between mid-grade star crystals and low-grade star crystals was 100. This meant that according to the normal exchange rate, 1,000 mid-grade star crystals could be exchanged for 100,000 low-grade star crystals. However, according to the intensity of the auction, the actual price should be much higher than that. As expected, the price kept rising. In the end, a 3-star enlightened person bought the set of mid-grade star crystals for 130,000 low-grade star crystals. 1,000 mid-grade star crystals were sold for 130,000 low-grade star crystals. This was a 130 exchange rate, which was much higher than the normal exchange rate. Thus, the true value of a mid-grade star crystal was more than 100 low-grade star crystals. However, according to the amount of star power, 1 mid-grade star crystal was the same as 100 low-grade star crystals. However, mid-grade star crystals could replace low-grade star crystals. However, mid-grade star crystals couldn't replace mid-grade star crystals in many aspects. For example, setting up a level 3 array formation and restoring astral energy were all uses of mid-grade star crystals. Low-grade star crystals couldn't do that. However, every inch had its advantages and disadvantages. Although mid-grade star crystals could completely replace low-grade star crystals, low-grade star crystals were still needed under certain circumstances. For example, a sect couldn't lack low-grade star crystals. Take a one-star sect as an example. They had a large number of disciples. If they gave each of them a middle-grade star crystal to cultivate, although it could replace the use of low-grade star crystals, it would be a complete waste. It was simply a reckless waste of natural resources. The Big Dipper sect was a superior one-star sect. It was also one of the 3 most powerful sects in the True Xian region. It had many disciples and consumed a huge amount of low-grade star crystals every year. If mid-grade star crystals were used to replace low-grade star crystals, the Big Dipper sect would definitely go bankrupt. Therefore, the Big Dipper auction would always take out mid-grade star crystals to auction and convert them into low-grade star crystals. This way, the exchange rate was 100 and they could make a lot more money. For an enlightened master, mid-grade star crystals were far more useful than low-grade star crystals. A large number of enlightened masters were willing to spend more than the normal exchange rate to obtain mid-grade star crystals. The second auction item was a high-grade spirit herb. A high-grade spirit elixir usually required several high-grade spirit herbs as raw materials. If a high-grade spirit herb was obtained, one would have to find other spirit herbs as raw materials and then ask an alchemist to refine the elixir. It was very troublesome. Therefore, high-grade spirit herbs were much less valuable than high-grade spirit elixirs. However, for cultivators who were alchemists themselves, every upper-grade spirit herb they could get their hands on was worth it. There would always be a use for them, so there were many people bidding for them. In the end, it was won by a Star Dipper realm alchemist. Chapter 365. Yixing had come to the auction for the final item, the Body Strengthening Elixir. The Body Strengthening Elixir was a high-grade elixir. It could increase a martial artist's physical strength to the level of a 1-star sage. Only martial artists with astral energy in their bodies could withstand the Body Strengthening Elixir. Otherwise, their bodies would explode and they would die. Therefore, martial artists who could consume the Body Strengthening Elixir had to be at least a half-step perfected one. Even though there were restrictions, there were still many martial artists who wanted the Body Strengthening Elixir. Even a Star Realm perfected one would not complain about having a strong physical body. A martial artist who had not strengthened his physical body could use the Body Strengthening Elixir to increase his physical strength to the level of a 1-star sage. Yixing's physical strength was already comparable to a half-step perfected one. If he consumed the Body Strengthening Elixir, his physical strength would definitely be stronger than other martial artists who consumed the Body Strengthening Elixir. This meant that after Yixing consumed the Body Strengthening Elixir, his physical strength would exceed that of a 1-star sage and could even contend with a 2-star sage. An increase in physical strength also meant an increase in physical strength, allowing one to withstand a stronger impact. This would be very beneficial for Yixing's participation in the Young Hero Assembly. In the entire auction, Yixing only bid a few times. All the level 3 array materials were bought by Yixing. In the auction, other than middle-grade star crystals that could be bought with low-grade star crystals, the other treasures could only be bought with middle-grade star crystals. During the auction, the Big Dipper auction would collect middle-grade star crystals and then auction them off to obtain more low-grade star crystals to maximize the profits. Yixing had a lot of middle-grade star crystals on him. This auction was not very high-grade. The perfected ones who came were all beginner Star Realm perfected ones. None of them could compete with Yixing in terms of middle-grade star crystals. Therefore, once Yixing bid, he was determined to win and never failed. After obtaining a few level 3 array materials, Yixing spent a lot of middle-grade star crystals. The martial artists present were amazed. They thought that this young martial artist had a lot of wealth. Humph. This brat obtained the sect master's ring of thieves, so he should have at least 6,000 to 7,000 mid-grade star crystals. In this auction, he spent at least a third of it. What a spendthrift. The elder of the Divine Wind sect, Feng Yuhan, said angrily in his heart. Even though he was a 2-star perfected person, he had no more than 1,000 mid-grade star crystals on him. The middle-grade star crystals of the entire Holy Wind sect should be similar to that of the Falling Star sect. However, Feng Yuhan was only an elder of the Holy Wind sect, while Yixing possessed the wealth of the entire Falling Star sect. Naturally, there was no comparison between the two. At the thought of Yixing's treasures, Feng Yuhan was both jealous and excited. In Feng Yuhan's opinion, Yixing was dead for sure after the auction. All of Yixing's treasures, be it the Flying Spirit Artifact, the Upper Grade Spirit Artifact, or the Starfall Sect Master's Ring, would fall into his hands. Time flew by. 4 hours later, the last item of the auction was about to be auctioned. All the martial artists cheered up. They knew that the next item to be auctioned was the Body Strengthening Elixir. A large number of perfected persons and half-step perfected persons wanted to obtain this upper-grade spirit elixir. Auctioneer Bicky raised her hand and a white jade medicine bottle appeared. Everyone's eyes were focused on the white jade medicine bottle in Bicky's hand. Bicky nodded and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the next item is the 72nd item of today's auction. It is also the last item of today's auction. As the last item of today's auction, its value must be the highest among the 72 items." Bicky smiled brightly and continued, "Ladies and gentlemen, you should already know that this is the upper-grade spirit elixir, the Body Strengthening Elixir. The Body Strengthening Elixir can increase a martial artist's physical strength to that of a 1-star perfected person. For martial artists who have already cultivated their physical strength, the effect is even better. The starting price is 1,000 mid-grade star crystals. Ladies and gentlemen, please make your bids." The starting price was 1,000 mid-grade star crystals. This made most of the martial artists shrink back at the sight of it. Not to mention half-step perfected persons, there were many perfected persons who did not even have 1,000 mid-grade star crystals on them. For example, Feng Yuhan and Fang Qing of the Divine Wind sect. There were many people like Feng Yuhan and Fang Qing who came from remote 1-star sections. Although they wanted this body strengthening elixir, they did not have enough money and could only give up with a sigh. With this starting price, at least 20% of the true masters would be excluded from the list of bidders. However, some of the perfected persons who came from mid-grade 1-star sects or even 9 Heaven City were much richer than the perfected persons who came from remote 1-star sections. These perfected persons accounted for more than 70% of the perfected persons in the auction house. There were still many of them. As soon as Bicky finished speaking, many perfected persons made their bids. 1,000. 1,000. 1,000. 100. 1,100. 1,200. 1,200. 1,300. 1,350. Many people made their bids at the same time for each bid. The starting price was 100 mid-grade star crystals, which was 10,000 low-grade star crystals. However, when the price rose to 1,300 mid-grade star crystals, the price started to slow down. Even so, the price still shot up to 1,500 mid-grade star crystals. Most of the previous auction items started at 100 mid-grade star crystals, and the final price was only 200 to 300 mid-grade star crystals. Even the more expensive items started at 300 to 500 mid-grade star crystals. The final price was less than 1,000 mid-grade star crystals. Compared to the auction of the body strengthening elixir, the first 71 items were simply too weak. When the price of the body-strengthening elixir reached 1,500 mid-grade star crystals, Yixing made his first bid, 1,800. The increase in the bid was decreasing. Yixing raised the price by 300 mid-grade star crystals in one go. This was enough to deter most of the perfected persons who were preparing to bid. As expected, all the perfected persons in the auction hall looked at Yixing. They were wondering how this kid was so rich. He had already spent more than 2,000 mid-grade star crystals in the previous auction. Now, he was still able to bid 1,800 mid-grade star crystals. Even some perfected persons who came from mid-grade 1-star sects only had about 2,000 mid-grade star crystals. The richer ones had about 3,000 mid-grade star crystals. They had hundreds of thousands of low-grade star crystals or even more. However, during the auction, they could only use mid-grade star crystals to bid. If they increased the bid by 1,800 mid-grade star crystals, most of them would go bankrupt. A small number of them would be severely injured. They were already perfected persons. Although the body-strengthening elixir had increased their physical strength was still incomparable to the strength of a star astral. It was clearly not worth it to go bankrupt to buy a body-strengthening elixir. Even if it was to auction it for a half-step perfected persons of the younger generation, allowing the younger generation to rank higher in the young hero assembly, they still had to consider whether it was worth it to spend so many mid-grade star crystals. They did not have much time to consider. Soon, someone made a bid, 2,000. The person who made the bid was Shui Yan from the VIP room. As a genius disciple of the Fire Cloud sect, it was not difficult for him to obtain 2,000 mid-grade star crystals. Although he was already a 2-star perfected persons, the body-strengthening elixir would not reach the strength of a star astral even if it strengthened his body. However, the increase in his physical strength greatly increased his defense. With an increase in defense, he would be able to withstand more powerful attacks and be able to last longer in battle. When the difference in strength was not too great, these 2 points were enough to turn the tide of a battle. This was very beneficial for Shui Yan when he participated in the Young Hero Assembly. He was determined to obtain the body-strengthening elixir. The perfected persons in the hall drew a cold breath. The price had increased to 2,000 mid-grade star crystals. They had all given up on the thought of bidding. They could not afford to compete. 2,500. Just as the warriors were surprised that someone in the VIP room had made a bid of 2,000 mid-grade star crystals, someone from another VIP room made a bid not far away. Gasps could be heard. This person's bid had increased from 2,000 mid-grade star crystals to 2,500 mid-grade star crystals. Mid-grade star crystals were not something that could be found on the streets. Even if it was calculated according to the standard exchange rate, 1 mid-grade star crystal was equivalent to 100 low-grade star crystals. 500 mid-grade star crystals was equivalent to 50,000 low-grade star crystals. A single increase in price was 50,000 low-grade star crystals. All the perfected persons present felt their breathing quicken. They could not bear it. The person who made the bid of 2,500 mid-grade star crystals was Shi Wenxia. Not only was his star astral strength powerful, but he also cultivated his physical body. Just his physical strength alone was enough to wipe out half-step perfected persons. He could even compete with a 1-star perfected persons. If he obtained the body-strengthening elixir, his physical strength would increase by another level. The double monthly votes had only started for 3 hours, and the Archer God had already been beaten twice. Brothers, that's too lame. Don't hide the monthly votes. Please vote for the Archer God. Begging for a monthly vote. Begging for passion. Monthly votes, plus chapters, with no limit to the outburst. Chapter 366. Shi Wenxia raised the price of the body fortification elixir to 2,500 mid-grade star crystals. The entire auction house quieted down. Only the sound of people gasping could be heard. Less than 10% of the perfected persons present had more than 2,500 mid-grade star crystals. Almost 90% of them couldn't even afford this price. The price of the body fortification elixir was already considered high when it reached 2,000 mid-grade star crystals. After all, martial arts cultivation was the most important thing for a martial artist. The body fortification elixir wasn't a spirit elixir that could increase one's martial arts cultivation. It could only increase one's physical strength. However, the young hero assembly was about to begin. For those outstanding young geniuses, the most important thing was to get a higher ranking in the young hero assembly. Therefore, a body fortification elixir could be auctioned at a higher price than usual. Shi Wenxie was born with divine strength and a strong physique. While he cultivated martial arts, he also cultivated body techniques. This body fortification elixir was very useful to him. He was determined to get it. Therefore, he raised the price by 500 mid-grade star crystals to Shui Yan's price. He was willing to spend mid-grade star crystals for the body fortification elixir. Shui Yan frowned in the VIP room. Yan Lin said, "It's Shi Wenxie." Shi Wenxie's voice was rough. Both of them knew Shi Wenxie, so they could naturally recognize him. Shui Yan naturally knew that the other party was Shi Wenxie. Ever since Shi Wenxie's cultivation had broken through to the second level of the astral realm, the martial artists in the True Xian domain had said that Shi Wenxie would be invincible among the 2 stars of the True Xian domain and would replace Shui Yan's 4th place on the Earth Xian ranking. This made Shui Yan very unhappy. Without a real fight, Shui Yan naturally didn't believe that Shi Wenxie could defeat him. In his opinion, the most likely reason why Shi Wenxie was auctioning the body fortification elixir was to defeat him in the Young Hero Assembly and replace his 4th place on the Earth Xian ranking. Shui Yan naturally couldn't let him have his way. Shui Yan said, 2,600. Shui Yan had less than 3,000 mid-grade star crystals. He didn't dare to raise the price by 500 like Shi Wenxie. Shi Wenxie came prepared. After Shui Yan raised the price, he immediately said, 3,000. 3,000 mid-grade star crystals were equivalent to 300,000 low-grade star crystals. If it was auctioned in the Big Dipper auction house, it might be sold for 390,000 low-grade star crystals. To a beginner true master, 3,000 mid-grade star crystals was a huge sum. 99% of the true masters in the auction hall wouldn't be able to take out such a sum. Shui Yan punched the tea table beside him and snorted angrily. He only had a little over 2,800 mid-grade star crystals. Shi Wenxie had offered 3,000. How could he compete with him? Although the Fire Cloud sect was one of the 9 high sects and was extremely wealthy, Shui Yan, as a 2-star perfected one, had more than 2,800 middle-grade astral crystals with him. This was already a lot. It was something that many early-stage perfected ones could only look up to. Unfortunately, Shi Wenxie had brought more mid-grade star crystals than him. Furthermore, although the Earth Carnage sect was inferior to the Fire Cloud sect, Shi Wenxie's status in the Earth Carnage sect was much higher than Shui Yan's status in the Fire Cloud sect. In terms of mid-grade star crystals, Shui Yan was inferior to Shi Wenxie. When Yan Lin saw Shui Yan's expression, she knew that Shui Yan didn't have any more mid-grade star crystals on him. She said, "Senior brother, I still have 1,000 mid-grade star crystals. You can use them first." Shui Yan's eyes lit up as he nodded towards Yan Lin. The gloominess in his heart instantly dissipated. He had more than 2,800 mid-grade star crystals on him. Including Yan Lin's, he had more than 3,800 mid-grade star crystals. Shui Yan shouted, 3,500. He also raised the price by 500 mid-grade star crystals in one go. There was only one word to describe the feeling: exhilarating. On the auction stage, Bicky's lips curled into a deep smile. As an auctioneer, she loved this kind of situation the most. 3,500 mid-grade star crystals had already far exceeded the price of a body-strengthening elixir. Shui Yan thought to himself, little guy, you can't afford to play anymore. However, the exhilaration in Shui Yan's heart didn't last for more than 3 breaths. Shi Wenxia's bid made him feel even more depressed. Shi Wenxia called out, 4,000. Shi Wenxia didn't have many mid-grade star crystals on him. However, a victorious smile appeared on his face. Through Shui Yan's bid, Shi Wenxia was very certain that Shui Yan's bid of 3,500 mid-grade star crystals was already a spent force. If Shi Wenxia bid 4,000 mid-grade star crystals, Shui Yan wouldn't be able to afford it no matter what. That was indeed the case. Shui Yan only had 3,800 mid-grade star crystals on Yan Lin. Shi Wenxia had already bid 4,000 mid-grade star crystals. How could he afford it? Shi Wenxia. Shui Yan shouted, sounding very unhappy. It's me. Shi Wenxia replied. You win. Shui Yan said coldly. Although his words were cold, it was clear that he had given up on the competition. You want to compete with me? Hee hee. Shi Wenxia sneered in his heart. Even though Shui Yan was a disciple of the 9 upper sects, in Shi Wenxia's eyes, Shui Yan couldn't be compared to him. In terms of talent, combat strength, and potential, Shui Yan couldn't be compared to him. Even in terms of tactics, Shui Yan couldn't compare. Although Yan Lin was respectful in front of Shui Yan, she was far from being obedient to Shui Yan. In front of Shi Wenxia, Black Widow would do whatever Shi Wenxia wanted her to do. She was obedient and obedient. Since Shui Yan had withdrawn from the competition, Shi Wenxia naturally regarded the body-strengthening elixir as his. He sneered in his heart. Shui Yan, do you think that I'm bidding for the body-strengthening elixir to deal with you? Humph, you don't deserve it. Far from it. When the Young Hero Assembly begins, I'll let everyone know how powerful I, Shi Wenxia, am. Humph. You all think that I'm aiming for the 4th place on the Earth Profound ranking list. Bah. What I want is the 1st place. On the auction stage, Bicky also thought that no one else would bid. She said, congratulations to VIP room 222. Just as Bicky started to speak, she was interrupted by Yixing, 4,500. Yixing had tens of thousands of mid-grade star crystals on him. Furthermore, the Falling Star sect had a mid-grade star crystal mine. There were at least 1 million mid-grade star crystals in it, or even a few million. To Yixing, it didn't matter how many mid-grade star crystals he had to spend. The key was to bid for the body-strengthening elixir. Previously, he had bid once, but Shi Wenxia and Shui Yan were competing, so he didn't interrupt. However, just because he didn't interrupt, it didn't mean that he didn't want it. Shi Wenxia wanted to bid for the body-strengthening elixir, but Yixing didn't agree. Yixing's sudden bid stunned everyone. The body-strengthening elixir had already been auctioned for 4,000 mid-grade star crystals. This was a sky-high price, yet there was still someone who wanted it. Yixing's bid had exceeded everyone's expectations. This bastard is really a prodigal. Feng Yuhan cursed in his heart. He was heartbroken. From Feng Yuhan's point of view, Yixing's things would soon be his. Now that Yixing had spent 4,500 mid-grade star crystals to bid for a body-strengthening elixir, it was simply a waste of his treasures. This kid is really strange. Not only is his combat strength incredible, but he also has so many mid-grade star crystals on him. However, this is also good. If this kid wins the body-strengthening elixir, it will be mine in a while. Shui Yan curled his lips and thought to himself. The martialists in the auction hall looked at Yixing in shock. Bicky, who was on the auction stage, was also surprised. She said, this auctioneer really bid 4,500. Whether it was her or the other martialists, none of them dared to believe that Yixing still had 4,500 mid-grade star crystals on him after spending more than 2,000 mid-grade star crystals. Yixing nodded and said, how can it be fake? This kid also dares to compete with me. Humph. Shi Wenxie stared coldly at Yixing through the window. He looked very unhappy. The VIP room was supported by a formation. Although one could see outside through the window, those outside could not see inside. However, Yixing still keenly sensed a sharp gaze fixed on him. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the VIP room where Shi Wenxie was. Shi Wenxie did not bid again. He said loudly, let him have it. The martialists were shocked. Shi Wenxie was obviously determined to get the body-strengthening elixir. Why would he give it to this young martialist sitting in the hall? Besides Shi Wenxie, Black Widow was puzzled. She asked, Senior brother, why are you giving him the body-strengthening elixir? Shi Wenxie smiled coldly and said, what's the difference if the body-strengthening elixir is in his hands or mine? Moreover, I can save 4,000 mid-grade star crystals. Why not? Oh. Black Widow reacted. Her eyes lit up and she said, Senior brother, you have calculated well. This kid is here to deliver the elixir to you. Shi Wenxie gave up on bidding. No one bid higher. This body-strengthening elixir was naturally won by Yixing for 4,500 mid-grade star crystals. My butthole is swollen. Is there any justice in this world? Double the monthly votes. Brothers, you can't be so useless. Go and add 980 votes. Even if you can't do it today, you have to rush to 1,060 votes so that I can add 2 chapters. Roll on the ground and beg for double the monthly votes. Chapter 367. With the completion of the auction for the body-strengthening elixir, the auction came to an end. After Yixing obtained the body-strengthening elixir, he left the auction hall and walked out of the Big Dipper auction house. The silver-winged demonic condor, who was in the demonic beast area, received Yixing's order and flew over, following Yixing. Behind Yixing, there were many martial artists. Many of them had evil looks in their eyes. How high could such a young martial artist's cultivation be? How strong could his demonic beasts be? Some perfected persons and even half-step perfected persons thought of Yixing as a pushover. Since Yixing could take out nearly 6,000 mid-grade star crystals, he must have more on him. They were plotting against Yixing. Shui Yan, Yan Lin, Shi Wenxie, and the Black Widow were all secretly following him. Of course, the ones who followed Yixing the most were the 4 martial artists from the Divine Wind sect. They were brazenly following behind Yixing. As long as Yixing left the Big Dipper auction house's perimeter, they would attack him. Just as Yixing left the Big Dipper auction house, the 2-star perfected person, Feng Yuhan, shouted, Stop him. Don't let him escape. Feng Qing led Feng Yu and Feng Zhe and immediately ran forward to intercept Yixing. As for Feng Yuhan, he still stood behind Yixing, surrounding Yixing. The martial practitioners following Yixing in the distance all stopped and watched from afar when they saw someone making a move. Shui Yan and Yan Lin glided in the air and landed on the roof of a house nearby. Shui Yan looked at Yixing and smiled. Yan Lin said coldly, Kid, you're dead today. Yixing glanced at Shui Yan and Yan Lin and said, Why? Do you want to attack together? Feng Yuhan wanted to kill Yixing and obtain Yixing's items. He did not want Shui Yan and Yan Lin to interfere. Feng Yuhan cupped his fists at Shui Yan and Yan Lin and said, Young Master Shui, Miss Yan, we have a life and death feud with Yixing. Please don't interfere. Shui Yan spread his hands and said, "Do whatever you want. I'll watch this kid die. Young master will see it soon. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed," Feng Yuhan and Yi Xing said at the same time. Shui Yan shrugged his shoulders with an indifferent expression, meaning that even if the 4 Divine Wind sect cultivators didn't kill Yi Xing, it didn't matter. In any case, as long as Shui Yan was here, Yi Xing would die without a doubt. Disappointed. Feng Yuhan looked at Yi Xing and said with a smile, "Yi Xing, you're good at running for your life. But today, you won't be able to escape. Even if you have a flying beast, you'll still die." Yi Xing looked cold and said, "The ones who won't be able to escape are you 4 idiots. You 2 idiots should have seen me using demonic beasts in the Green Cloud Palace of the Green Cloud Ancient Land." The Divine Wind sect was known for their speed. Feng Yuhan had the hurricane and was even faster. He was unparalleled among his peers. He barely avoided the silver-winged demonic eagle's attack. However, the silver-winged demonic eagle was a demonic bird. Speed was also its forte. Moreover, it was even faster than Feng Yuhan. In an instant, it flapped its wings and charged towards Feng Yuhan. Whoosh! The silver wings broke through the air and swept across like a silver blade. The silver-winged demonic eagle's wings were as strong as a spiritual weapon. They were extremely sharp and their power was no less than that of an upper-grade spiritual weapon. The silver wings were too fast. Even though Feng Yuhan's speed was outstanding, he could not avoid the silver-winged demonic eagle's silver wings. He could only block them. Whoosh! A middle-grade spiritual weapon saber appeared in Feng Yuhan's hand. With surging astral energy, he slashed down at the silver wings. With a loud clang, the spiritual weapon saber bounced back. The silver wings were like blades. They swept forward with unstoppable force. Silver light flashed past Feng Yuhan's neck. Feng Yuhan's head was separated from his body and flew up. In an instant, blood gushed out from Feng Yuhan's headless neck and splashed in all directions. It was a gory scene. Feng Yuhan's strength was not outstanding among his peers. However, the silver-winged demonic eagle's strength was one of the best among the 3 stars venerables. In a head-on confrontation, Feng Yuhan naturally died. Feng Yuhan had lost his life. Feng Qing, Feng Yu, and Feng Zhe were scared out of their wits. As a venerate, Feng Qing was better off. He screamed and fled into the distance like lightning. When Feng Yu and Feng Zhe saw Feng Yuhan's head cut off by the silver-winged demonic eagle, they screamed and collapsed to the ground. They were completely scared out of their wits. Whoosh! As soon as Feng Qing fled, Yi Xing chased after him like a bolt of lightning. The manifestation stage Heavenly Bat steps contained subtle wind potential. Yi Xing's speed was more than double that of a 1-star venerate like Feng Qing. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Feng Qing. The black dragon spear instantly appeared in Yi Xing's hand. He used the divine light flash and thrust out his spear. Feng Qing, who was running away, only felt the aura of death behind him. He was terrified and didn't realize that Yi Xing had caught up to him so quickly. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his chest. He subconsciously looked down and saw the bloody spear point. His expression immediately turned to horror. He opened his mouth and wanted to scream. However, he could no longer make a sound. The black dragon spear shook and was instantly pulled back. With a flash of cold light, there was not a single drop of blood on it. A fist-sized hole appeared in Feng Qing's body. Blood gushed out and he fell to the ground. Feng Qing died. Feng Yu and Feng Zhe also died at the same time. The silver-winged demonic eagle had crushed their heads with its claws. In the blink of an eye, 2 venerate elders and 2 martial saints of the Divine Wind sect had died. When Yixing killed Chobohong, he said that he wasn't the first nor would he be the last. Today, the enemies of the Falling Star sect had killed another 4 people. At this moment, all the martial artists on the street were shocked. They stared at Yixing and the savage silver-winged demonic eagle, completely silent. Yixing swept his eyes over the surrounding martial artists. Then, his eyes fell on Shui Yan and Yan Lin. He said, "If you want to fight, then come." Chapter 368. Shui Yan and Yan Lin looked at the silver-winged demonic condor with a serious expression. In the enlightened person realm, every level was a huge difference in strength. It was extremely difficult to challenge someone of a higher level. Although Shui Yan was a 2-star enlightened person, he was not a match for a 3-star enlightened person. The strength and aura that the silver-winged demonic condor had displayed were all at the level of a 3-star enlightened person. Even if Shui Yan and Yan Lin worked together, they would still not be a match for it. However, although they were afraid of the silver-winged demonic condor's strength, Shui Yan and Yan Lin were at the top of the Earth Profound ranking. Moreover, they came from one of the 9 superior sects. Naturally, they would not show weakness in front of Yixing. Shui Yan snorted and said, "You are just relying on your demonic beast's strength to show off. I will spare your life today. In the Young Hero Assembly, you are not allowed to bring your demonic beast to battle. Humph. When the time comes, don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, I will take your life." Shui Yan and Yan Lin left behind these vicious words to give themselves a way out. Then, they immediately left. Shui Yan and Yan Lin's retreat was within Yixing's expectations. He asked the silver-winged demonic condor to move the bodies of Feng Yuhan, Feng Qing, Feng Yu, and Feng Zhe to the side. Yixing took their storage rings and used the star fire to burn the 4 bodies to ashes. When Yixing was about to leave, a muscular man who was 2 meters tall blocked his path. This muscular man was very young. He was only in his early 20s. However, the muscles on his body were bulging like dragons. He was filled with power and intimidating. Beside the muscular man, Black Widow was looking at Yixing coldly. Needless to say, this young muscular man was the genius disciple of the Earth Fiend sect, Shi Wenxie. Yixing scanned with his super brain and found out Shi Wenxie's cultivation. With Black Widow beside him, Yixing naturally guessed his identity in an instant. Yixing looked at Shi Wenxie. Shi Wenxie. Shi Wenxie said frivolously, "Yes, I am." Yixing said indifferently, "Do you think you're a match for Silver Devil?" Shi Wenxie was extremely confident as he said, "It's only equivalent to 3-star Venerable." Yixing, for the sake of the silver-winged demonic condor, hand over the body-strengthening pill, and I won't make things difficult for you today. If you're unlucky enough to meet me at the Young Hero Assembly, I'll teach you a lesson. Yixing squinted his eyes. Shi Wenxie clearly knew that the silver-winged demonic condor was equivalent to Reverend 3 stars, yet he was still so confident. Could it be that his strength was not only unrivaled in the same realm, but also able to fight against Reverend 3 stars? The rest of the warriors had the same thought as Yixing. They were all shocked.